Chapter 2495. There were cosmic rings in the hyperspace as well, and they weren't anything special. Lu Yin guessed that they had something to do with the fifth mainland, or rather, the Genesis space. Lu Yin stored the energy source in his cosmic ring, and not long after, Luo Lauer walked out with a relaxed expression. "Sister Yu, I told you you can't get it, haha." The girl ground her teeth. "Were you hiding it? Tell me the truth, brother Luo." Luo Lauer rolled his eyes. "You think too highly of me. Who do you think can hide it from the detection equipment?" The girl replied, "Some powerful cultivators from the Cultivation civilization can do it. You're the son of Lord Luo, so of course you can do it." Lu Yin's eyes widened and he looked at Luo Lauer. The son of Lord Luo? Could it be that Lord Luo of the Three Sovereigns? Luo Lauer quickly shushed her. "Sister, you don't talk nonsense about me. I was abandoned by Lord Luo a long time ago, and I don't have any status or ability. I'm afraid of you, Sister Yu. I'll do whatever you say, but I really can't get the blue energy source." The girl rolled her eyes again, but she didn't say anything else. After that, more and more people tried to get close to the girl, but she ignored them. It wasn't until a few youths with high status walked out that they joined the girl in Luo Lauer's circle. The people who had tried to strike up a conversation with Luo Lauer were chased away. As long as there were people, there would be differences in status. Luo Lauer seemed ordinary, but he was in the same circle as the girl. If he really was the son of Lord Luo of the Three Sovereigns, then his status would be even more different, but that didn't seem to be the case. How could the son of Lord Luo be like this? 2 days later, no more people were sent over. More than 1,000 youths had gathered in this space, and they had all received the energy source. They found people they were familiar with to interact with, forming circles after circles. Luo Lauer's circle was the subject of envious gazes. Lu Yin was also the subject of many people's curiosity as he stood alone in a corner. "Sister Yu, have you heard of the surname Xian?" Luo Lauer asked. The girl's name was Yu. "Xian? Never heard of it. Is she from the Three Sovereigns space?" "Xian? It can't be from the Wood Realm, right? It sounds like it," someone interrupted. Luo Lauer pointed at Lu Yin. "That guy calls himself Xianxia, but I can't remember any noble with the surname Xian." "Deliberately mystifying and pretentious," a man said disdainfully. Zhou Xian said, "I remember that a few years ago, there was a small aristocrat with the surname Bai. It happened to be a few days after that person joined the decision-making team, and it attracted a lot of attention. Everyone thought that the person with the surname Bai was from the same family as that person in the decision-making team. Many people surrounded them, and even my grandfather asked around. In the end, he confirmed that the small aristocrat was just putting on an act." Luo Lauer said, "I remember now. That minor noble was very aloof in the beginning and didn't pay attention to anyone. Many people sent him gifts and resources, and I heard that someone even sent a white energy source to him. He was deceived quite miserably." Speaking to there, many people looked at the man who had said that he was deliberately mystifying things. His name was Mudo, and the one who had been tricked into giving the white energy source was from his family. When this was brought up, Mudo grew even more displeased and he looked at Lu Yin with disgust as he walked over. Luo Lauer blinked. "He's not going to cause trouble for him, is he?" Zhou Xian said, "That minor noble who tricked the Mudo family escaped without a trace. The Mu family still hasn't recovered from the loss of a white energy source, and they've been ridiculed for many years now. Do you think it'll be troublesome? But what if he really is a great noble who's hiding his identity? Then he's just unlucky. The Mu family used all of their resources and has already been nominated for the next decision-making team. If nothing unexpected happens, there will definitely be someone from the Mu family on the next committee. Unless that person is related to the decision-making team, he can only accept his bad luck." Suddenly, Mudo looked back at Luo Lauer. What kind of energy source did he take? Luo Lauer raised his brows. This guy wasn't too arrogant after all. It was good that he knew how to ask, and it was good that he had probed that person's background. It was fine if he was deliberately mystifying things, but if he really did have a background, then the Mu family would be the unlucky ones. Green. Mudo's eyes flashed and he coldly glanced at the crowd before looking at Lu Yin and walking over. Lu Yin had actually been keeping an eye on Luo Lauer's group, and he could glean quite a bit from their conversation. Of course, he had also heard their conversation and he was speechless. Was this considered a scapegoat? Being a scapegoat was not his style. His style was to shift the blame. As Mudo approached, Lu Yin suddenly stood up and walked over to a group of people. Time's up. The group looked at Lu Yin in confusion. It was the same group that had cut the queue. Muscleman was confused. What time? Lu Yin replied, you told me to stand in the corner and not move. Time's up, so can I leave now? Muscleman and the others looked at each other. When had he been told to stand in the corner and not move? Zhou Xian and the rest were stunned. There was actually such a reversal? They looked at Mudo. This was awkward. They had been about to cause trouble for him, but he was the one being punished. Mudo stood in the middle, not knowing if he should leave or not. The main thing was that the atmosphere was brewing and it wouldn't be right if he didn't vent. Thus he walked over to Muscleman's group. You were the one who cut the queue? Boss, did you punish him? Someone asked. The girl looked at him respectfully. Boss, he agreed to let us cut the queue, but you still punished him? What a man. Boss, you're amazing. You haven't even entered the battlefield and you're already taking in underlings. Boss, you're amazing. Muscleman stared blankly for a moment, but then he scratched the back of his head and laughed maniacally. This kid is quite pleasing to the eye. He'll be very obedient after some training, huh? Lu Yin laughed. Then can I leave now? Muscleman patted Lu Yin's shoulder. Why are you leaving? Go stand there. Lu Yin grunted and obediently walked to the corner. Immediately, flattery flooded into Muscleman's ears, causing him to become even more arrogant. Lu Yin brushed past Mudo, but Mudo suddenly raised a hand and pressed down on Lu Yin's shoulder. Lu Yin stopped and looked at him in shock. Why did the people of this space-time like to pat people's shoulders? Go slap him, Mudo said. Lu Yin thought he had misheard. What? Mudo growled. Slap him, I said so. He then exerted force and pushed Lu Yin towards Muscleman. Lu Yin couldn't control himself and bumped into Muscleman, who was enraged. You little brat, do you want to die? Lu Yin pointed at Mudo. He pushed me. Muscleman glared at Mudo. You dash. He was about to say something when he suddenly realized. Your master Mudo? Mudo stared at Lu Yin. Slap him. Lu Yin gulped and hesitated. That's not good. I'll say it one last time, slap him. Mudo barked in annoyance. Lu Yin hurriedly turned around and slapped Muscleman's face. The crisp sound of the slap attracted many people's attention. But Yu and the rest watched calmly. Transdimensional's status was clear. With Mudo's status, he could even cripple that person, let alone slap him. Muscleman thought the same and didn't dare resist. Lu Yin's slap stunned him. Mudo was satisfied. Not bad, don't be so useless in the future. Lu Yin's eyes lit up. Yes. He then slapped Muscleman again. Mudo was stunned. Why was it another slap? Muscleman stared blankly at Lu Yin. Why was he slapping him again? Who told you to slap me? Everyone looked at Lu Yin. Lu Yin said, that's more like it. Muscleman was furious and his eyes flashed. In the distance, Luo Bro laughed. Yu pursed her lips and smiled. Mudo sized Lu Yin up and praised him. Not bad, come and follow me. Lu Yin hurried over. Yes, my lord. The first slap had only been to vent Mudo's anger, but the second one had made him feel that Lu Yin was a promising talent that could bring him face. Just like that, Lu Yin, who should have been the target of trouble, suddenly joined Mudo's circle. Although his position was the lowest and he was ordered around, no one dared to offend him with Mudo's support. Luo Bro no longer paid any attention to him, but he still cared about the Xian surname. Just like that, 3 days later a piece of news suddenly came. Their original destination had changed. They had changed to the drifting cloud space. Drifting cloud space? Isn't that a parallel universe? Why are we in the drifting cloud space? Yi was puzzled. Mudo explained, the drifting cloud space isn't just a parallel universe. It's also one of the battlefields with the Eternals. It said that when we conquered the drifting cloud space, the Eternals interfered and turned the drifting cloud space into a battlefield. Luo Bro continued mysteriously, let me tell you a secret. It said that our change of destination has something to do with someone. Who? Yi was curious. Everyone looked at Luo Bro as well. He always had a way to obtain confidential information. Luo Bro's voice was very soft and only those in his circle could hear it. Everyone else was envious. Zijing. Zijing? Mudo, Yu and the others cried out. Luo Bro quickly shushed them. Don't spread this news. I spent a lot of effort to find out, so don't let others hear it for nothing. Zijing? That traitor who caused a huge commotion? Mudo was shocked. Luo Bro replied, she's not a traitor. She didn't betray the Transcendence universe, she just escaped. It's said that one of their techniques can bring about unpredictable consequences. Yu muttered, I heard grandfather say that this woman is very important. Her disappearance caused one of our techniques to stagnate. If we can't find her, it will stagnate for a very long time. Now that she's back, that technique is about to break through. That's why the council has shifted our battlefield to the drifting cloud space. What does this have to do with the drifting cloud space? Is that Zijing from the drifting cloud space? Lu Yin interrupted. Someone was unhappy. Who are you to interrupt? Shut up. Mudo glared. He's one of my people. You're the one who should shut up. Mudo, others might be afraid of you, but I'm not. My family was also nominated by the council. So what? Yu was annoyed. All right, what are you arguing about? My grandfather is in the council. The two immediately stopped talking. Lu Yin was speechless. This was a competition of background. Chapter 2496. Luo Bro continued, I don't know the specifics, but this is the only big thing that happened recently. He suddenly flashed a wretched smile that made Zui want to hit him. I heard that Zijing brought a man back this time, I wonder what he looks like. Suiyu was disgusted. What does that have to do with you? Luo Bro shouted, if Zijing really does bring about a breakthrough in a certain technique, then even if she has a history of running away, it won't stop her from becoming a member of the council in the future. You guys can think about who will marry her. Mudo's eyes lit up and a few people around him subconsciously straightened their backs. That's right, although they didn't know what that technique was, it definitely wasn't simple for the council to care so much about it. If she could take Zijing down, then regardless of whether or not she would join the council in the future, she would definitely become one of the higher-ups. Brothers, it's time to live off a woman. Go and find out as much as you can. If you can take her down, then your ancestors will wake up laughing, Luo Bro said. Disgusting, one of the girls spat. Suiyu looked down on them. If you're a man, then get ahead of yourself. Thinking about this all the time is disgusting. Find the man that Zijing brought here first, then beat him up and suppress him, Luo Bro shouted. Mudo was excited. Yes, find him and suppress him. Suppress. Suppress. Zijing is mine. Wine. My. Soon they all started arguing. Luo Bro was the most agitated, shouting that he wanted to join the council and show his father who was the real talent. Suiyu and the other girls stood far away with looks of disdain. Lu Yin pursed his lips. What were these guys shouting about? His identity wouldn't be exposed, right? He wanted to run further away. Xianxia, what are you standing there for? Beat him up. If he dares, Mudo, I'll beat you up first. Luo Bro, you're from the Outlands, don't get involved. You're from the Outlands, your whole family is from the Outlands. My body and mind belong to the hyperspace, I'll stay here for the rest of my life. You've been abandoned. Your whole family has been abandoned. There were more than 1,000 people around and they were all staring at these few people. Lu Yin felt awkward. Finally, the laughter broke the quarrel. Everyone looked over and saw that the person who laughed was a middle-aged man. He was as tall and sturdy as Kujian. There were scars on his face and his exposed arms were full of scars. One look and one could tell that he was not someone to be trifled with. You're very energetic. Good, time's up. Come with me and use your energy on the battlefield. Don't think about women all day. If anyone dares to mention women again, I'll make them stay on the battlefield for the rest of their lives, ha. Luo Lauer's mouth was wide open as he stared at the man with a dumbfounded expression. He then raised his hand and held his chin as he asked in a very low voice, why is he here? Next to him, Mudwa said, what's so surprising about that? Our itinerary has changed, so it's normal for the Flowing Cloud Space's commander to change. Qiu Zhan, known as the most belligerent commander, often rushed to the front alone in the war, so much so that in several big battles, the decision-making committee had to agree to give him a black energy source to protect himself. He is one of the few people in Transdimensional who can use a black energy source, but I heard that he offended the decision-making committee, so the black energy source will never be given to him. Why was such a person sent to Flowing Cloud Space? Someone was puzzled. Maybe he can use the black energy source again, another person said with a fervent look in his eyes. Black energy sources were Transdimensional's most powerful weapons. Once they were used, they could fight against progenitors. This was what Zhou Xian had said, as long as they were willing, even a bug could fight against a progenitor. However, Lu Yin did not believe such words. Using an energy source required one's own body. Although it did not have much to do with one's cultivation level, the requirements for certain aspects of one's body were even more perverse. He looked at the middle-aged man called Zhou Xian. This person did not use an energy source, but he was able to exert pressure on the entire space. His strength should not be lower than an envoy's, but because his cultivation path was different, Lu Yin did not know what kind of envoy's power level he could display. Not making any noise? Get over here. The closer you are to me, the better. Zhou Xian barked. Everyone seemed to wake up from a dream, and they all looked at Zhou Xian apprehensively. They did not know what to do, as the pressure that Zhou Xian was exerting on them was too great. Even an enlighter could exert a great amount of pressure on a normal person, let alone someone with Zhou Xian's strength. Zhu Yu was the first to walk over, as she was not too far away from Zhou Xian. Next, Mudo and the rest followed suit. It had to be said that although some people were born with a higher status than others, the training and education that they had received made them elites. There were very few who were truly useless and hedonistic. Lu Yin followed Mudo over. Zhou Xian's gaze swept across everyone's faces, and they all paled as they forcefully endured his pressure and advanced. In the end, over 1,000 people formed a circle around Zhou Xian, but Zhou Xian disdainfully said, "Come closer." Zhu Yu gritted her teeth and approached Zhou Xian. She was only 2 meters away from him, while Luo Lauer was 5 meters away. Lu Yin, who was behind Mudo, was about 5 meters away as well. Xiao Bai actually needs me to personally lead you to a battlefield like this. It's all thanks to your ancestors, but on the battlefield your ancestors won't be able to protect you. After speaking, a transparent energy source on Zhou Xian's chest emitted a bright white light. It was similar to Zhou Xian's, but there were some differences. Although they were both white, Zhou Xian's was much more dazzling than Zhou Xian's. It was also much purer and thicker. With a burst of energy, the white light enveloped everyone. Zhou Xian took a step forward and brought everyone through the void. Lu Yin was flabbergasted. Was this how ultra space-time used a half-progenitor's power? It was too crude, just like how a half-progenitor would directly use astral sources to coerce others. The people here did not have inner worlds. In a one-on-one battle, those who used white energy sources would find it difficult to defeat a half-progenitor from the fifth mainland. The scene in front of them changed, and they appeared in a starry sky that was completely different from ultra spacetimes. Lu Yin looked up and saw the materialized energy that flowed like dark clouds above, as well as the faintly discernible structure of a huge object in the distance. He stared into the distance. What was that? At this moment, Zhou Xian was also staring at him. The others did not react, but Lu Yin was the first to look over after traveling through a parallel spacetime. This was not normal. After all, traveling through parallel spacetime was stressful, and the stronger the parallel spacetime, the greater the pressure. Although drifting cloud space was not a very powerful parallel space, it was still not something that these aristocratic elites could immediately react to. Lu Yin's performance had exceeded Zhu Yu's expectations. Zhu Yu stared at Lu Yin, the dark green lens in his right eye flashing continuously before finally stopping at 270,000. Zhu Yu was astonished. 270,000 power level? Was this kid a cultivator? Civilized one? This is drifting cloud space? Zhu Yu exclaimed. The others reacted as well, and they looked around. Zhou Xian no longer paid attention to Lu Yin, as he did not find a cultivation civilization strange. Ultra spacetime had its own cultivation civilization, and most of the current Six Directions Society were cultivators as well. Cultivators often came to ultra spacetime. What Zhou Xian found strange was that someone from a cultivation civilization like Lu Yin had been sent to drifting cloud space. The white light from his chest blossomed once more, and he led everyone in the direction that Lu Yin was looking at while simultaneously investigating Lu Yin's identity. So that's how it is. Zhou Xian glanced at Lu Yin again. With his status, he could naturally investigate Lu Yin's background, and it was no wonder that Lu Yin was Zijing's man. This meant that nothing could happen to Lu Yin on this battlefield. This was a mission given to him by the council, but Zhou Xian did not care. There was no such thing as nothing could happen on the battlefield. Even he himself could not guarantee his own survival. If they wanted nothing to happen to Lu Yin, they should not have sent him to drifting cloud space. Since he was already here, his life and death depended on himself. Zhou Xian did not care about the council's orders, nor did he care about Lu Yin. Up ahead, the huge structure was getting closer and closer. Lu Yin did not care about Zhou Xian as he kept staring at the huge structure in the distance. It was not much smaller than the sect above the heavens. What was that? Even though they were separated by quite a distance, Lu Yin felt a sense of danger as soon as he saw it. When Zhou Xian brought everyone in front of the huge structure, many of them were shocked. Lu Yin was more shocked than anyone else. Others more or less understood what this thing was as they were all from Transcendence, but this was Lu Yin's first time seeing it. This was the bestow technique. Zijing had explained before that the bestow technique was a technique that the universe offered to humanity. The universe sealed source boxes, and Transcendence could extract and use all of the materials within the source box. This was equivalent to the power of the universe, which was why it was called the bestow technique. Lu Yin had never thought that source boxes could be used in such a way. He felt that the source box array's usage of source boxes was already very mysterious. It could only be said that the universe had developed for countless years, and humanity's ingenuity had become its greatest weapon. Look carefully. This is the largest bearer of the art of bestowment that we have ever developed. As long as we have enough source boxes, it won't be a dream to wipe out life forms with power levels in the millions. Your mission is to defend one of the components and keep it open. Use your power to become a small component. Do you understand? Zhou Xian barked. Everyone replied, yes, sir. The bestow technique was a gigantic mechanical object that was close to the size of the sect above the heavens. Regardless of how complicated the internal structure was, there were countless weapons arranged around the carrier, and there were also many people patrolling the area. The carrier was protected like an iron bucket. There were even mechanical extensions in the distance, and countless people were walking on top of them. At first glance, it looked like a monster that was being used to carry the humans' attacks. There were also several large spheres on top of the bestow technique, and they looked like energy sources that had been magnified countless times. Everyone around him knew what those things were, and Lu Yin gradually understood what they were after listening to their discussions. Those were energy sources that could be extracted. Once they encountered an external attack, those energy sources could decompose the external attack and turn it into the most primitive form of energy that they could use. That was how the energy sources that they used were obtained. Chapter 2497. Hyperspace had two secret techniques, the art of gift and the energy source. Both of them had appeared on this giant vessel. These vessels rarely appear outside of hyperspace. The council must care a lot about the drift cloud space to be able to transport something this big. Mudo sighed. Lu Yin replied, yeah, there aren't many of them. Mudo sneered, not many? That's called few. There aren't more than 10 of them in the entire hyperspace. The Reincarnation Spacetime Society wanted to borrow one, but the council's conditions made them give up. This is our secret weapon, so how could we possibly bring it out? For it to appear here, Luo Lauer was right, something big must have happened, and it must have something to do with that woman, Zijing. Lu Yin looked up at the sky. Could Zijing's words be true? She wasn't sure herself. She clearly wasn't sure, and it was just a guess, but it had scared her into fleeing. If that cultivation technique was successful, then it would be terrifying. He had originally thought that the possibility wasn't high, but now it seemed that hyperspace had paid such a huge price, so it might be true. The group was brought to a corner of the Art of Gift by Zhou Xian. Above them was a starry sky, and around them were platforms made of metal. Zhou Xian pointed at a square protrusion not too far away. You don't need me to teach you, right? I want that thing to never protrude. That's an order. Even if all of you die, that thing is not allowed to protrude. Now we'll start according to the order of receiving the energy source. A man walked out from the crowd and walked up to the protrusion. He took a deep breath and placed his hand on the protrusion. A green light blossomed from his chest as a wave of energy surged in. He exerted force and pushed the protrusion deep into the machine until half of his arm was inside. The platform seemed to activate as the green light spread out along the lines and connected in all directions. Lu Yin looked around and saw that there were many of these platforms. Some of them glowed brightly while others were completely dark. The colors of the platforms glowed differently, which probably had something to do with the user. Zhou Xian said, remember, that thing cannot protrude, or you'll all be punished according to military orders. Commander, what if the enemy attacks? A girl asked softly. Zhou Xian glared at her. Even if you die, you'll have to fulfill my orders. He then pointed at Luo Lauer. He's your captain, so listen to him. Only after Qiu Zhan left did everyone heave a sigh of relief. Their expressions relaxed as they started to discuss. Luo Lauer, on the other hand, stood rooted to the ground. What the hell? I'm the captain? Zuiyu, Mudwa and many others looked at Luo Lauer. They did not expect that Luo Lauer would be appointed as the captain. Captain, give us the order. What should we do? Mudo Tequila. Zuiyu smiled and said, Captain, show us your blue energy source. Captain, does Commander Qiu know Lord Luo? Luo Lauer wanted to cry but had no tears. He did not want to be a captain. What did it have to do with him? He just wanted to eat quietly and wait for death. At the same time, he also wanted to ask around for information. He couldn't bear this responsibility. He wanted to find Qiu Zhan, but how could he find him in such a huge vessel? Everyone were all brothers and sisters. Why don't we go home? At the same time, in hyperspace, Zijing was kneeling on the ground. In front of her was a staircase that extended from bottom to top. Beautiful flowers bloomed on the staircase and strange palm-sized creatures danced happily. Let out a beautiful laugh. Long time no see, Zijing, a pleasant voice said. Zijing was shocked. She raised her head and looked at the top of the stairs. There was a woman sitting there covered by 7 colored clouds. Although she couldn't see the woman's face clearly, she could feel the woman's flawless beauty in an instant. This was a perfect woman. There was no need to look at her face or anything else. Just a single glance was enough to confirm her perfection. Long time no see, Zijing said hoarsely. She looked down and saw that the staircase had turned into nothingness. The cute creatures, the cheerful laughter and the beautiful flowers had all disappeared. There was an unimaginable gap between her and the woman on the staircase, and they would never be able to connect. Your escape put the council in a difficult position. Fortunately, it didn't last long, the woman on the staircase said. Her voice was very pleasant. I know I was wrong, Zijing said in a low voice. Look up, the woman said. Zijing subconsciously looked up and saw a picture appear in the air. It was a picture of Lu Yin standing on top of the art of bestowment. His eyes were blank. Look at him, he doesn't know anything. He only has a power level of around 200,000, and he's like an ant on the battlefield. He can be easily crushed. How can someone like him survive on the battlefield? The woman's voice grew gentler, but her words were chilling. Zijing's eyes widened. You promised not to make things difficult for him. He, of course we won't make things difficult for him. We'll even nurture him. I want him to live, as only then will he be valuable to you and us. However, the prerequisite is your loyalty. Zijing, I don't see any loyalty from you. The less loyal you are, the more confused he will be. Apprehension, fear and despair. Humans are very interesting, aren't they? As their emotions are expressed, their gazes will change as well. I'm looking forward to seeing that in his eyes. Zijing lowered her head respectfully. I've already told the council that I will faithfully complete the mission given to me. I won't hesitate and I won't run away. Never. Right, I see some loyalty. As a reward, I'll let you contact him or even bring him here. Thank you, Zijing said. Right, write down everything you know about the spacetime you escaped to. After all, it was the primordial space, so it's worth learning about it. Zijing nodded. Understood. You may leave. Appearing on the battlefield meant that there would be war. On the 6th day after Lu Yin and the others were assigned to the battlefield, war arrived. Countless corpse kings appeared and attacked the art of bestowment. The machinery extended from the bearer of the feed technique slaughtered the corpse kings in a frenzy, like a giant standing in the starry sky slaughtering without restraint. This scene lasted for more than 10 days, and as the extended machinery was damaged, the corpse kings began to approach the carrier. Lu Yin watched calmly. How many corpse kings had this giant carrier killed in 10 days? This included emissary-level corpse kings, which were worthy of being called killing machines. If only the 5th mainland had such a carrier. So far, not a single member of Transdimensional had been injured. When the extended machinery was destroyed and the corpse kings approached, all kinds of weapons were fired from the carrier. Countless people rushed out and they looked very strange as they had horns on their heads. Those are native creatures of the drifting cloud space. I saw them when I was studying, someone exclaimed. Someone else asked, yes. Who hasn't seen them before? The drifting cloud space is the largest parallel space under Transdimensional. Everyone knows the situation here. Lu Yin wanted to say that he didn't know. No one would explain it to him. Everyone watched as the countless native creatures of the drifting cloud space rushed into space. These creatures all used gray energy sources and had the ability to wander through space. To transdimensional, these creatures were qualified cannon fodder. These creatures looked almost the same as humans except that they had horns on their heads. To transdimensional, these creatures could not be called humans but rather creatures. At that moment, Lu Yin saw a rather powerful corpse king carve out a bloody path towards the carrier of the art of bestowment. When it was within a certain range, the corpse king attacked with a punch. The wind from the punch suddenly disappeared and the corpse king was killed by a weapon. Lu Yin's eyes flashed. The corpse king's attack had been broken down by the absorption of the energy source. The battle ended very quickly, and the transdimensional people on the carrier did not even get close to the corpse king. The carrier trembled and then began to move forward. They're trying to take over the entire drifting cloud space, Luo Lao said as he stroked his chin. I'm almost out of energy, a woman said from within the cube. Half of her arm was stuck into the cube, and the light from the energy source on her chest was growing weaker. Luo Lao waved. Next. Many people looked at Mudo. It was his turn. Mudo shouted, Xianxia, you go. Lu Yin was calm and did not refuse. He stepped forward, curious about this as well. He went to the woman's side and she asked, Ready? Lu Yin nodded. The woman suddenly stopped and Lu Yin pressed his hand against the cube. It was cold to the touch and had a metallic texture. He immediately activated the energy source in his chest, and its power instantly spread throughout his body. This was an external power that could also be used. At this moment, Lu Yin finally understood what it was like for someone from transdimensional to use an energy source. This was completely different from cultivation, but it could still be used freely. As the green light extended, no one paid any attention to it. Mudo, don't tell me you're not doing anything, Suiyu said. Mudo said, let Xianxia take my place, it's just a matter of making 2 more trips. Everyone had to replenish their energy source after activating the cube. The distance was rather far and a round trip would take a day. Mudo had Lu Yin take his place, which meant that while everyone else had to make 1 trip, he had to make 2 trips. However, he did not mind. Lu Yin himself did not have any objections and the others did not either. Mudo's background was quite deep. Of course, in Mudo's own words, he was just following Lu Yin. Otherwise, Lu Yin would have been bullied to death by Musselman's group. It's that kid's fortune to be able to help me. Many people would beg for it, Mudo said proudly. He was right. Many people around wanted to help Mudo's circle as long as they could join. Unfortunately, not everyone was qualified. Suiyu chose someone to replace her and everyone else in the circle did the same. Only Luo Lao was an exception. Although he was the captain, he was from the 3 Monarchs universe, so flattery was useless. Luo Lao was depressed. As the captain, he actually had to do it himself. It was too embarrassing. Chapter 2498. The green energy source could last for about 4 hours and after that someone replaced Lu Yin. He then followed the instructions and went to the replenishment area. He had wanted to ask around but he couldn't understand anything. He decided to just wait until he had the chance to steal the entire thing and hand it over to the technocracy for research. How big was the drifting cloud space? Lu Yin didn't ask, but since Luo Lauer had said that the Hyperspace Society wanted to completely reclaim it, that meant that the area couldn't be too big. Otherwise, with the speed at which the carrier was advancing, how long would it take to reclaim it? A few days later, the Eternals appeared again. This time there were even more Corpse Kings than before and they were clearly much more powerful. More Corpse Kings approached the carrier and the carrier absorbed their energy. The battle was won and the carrier continued to advance. One day an incomparably huge Corpse King appeared and everyone's expressions changed. Although this Corpse King was far smaller than the carrier, it wasn't too weak either and it was strong enough to shatter a planet. Luo Lauer was shocked. Such a huge monster. Where did it come from? Suiyu's face paled. Legends say that a giant appeared in a certain space-time, and the largest one was large enough to cause stars to revolve around it. One hand could cover the heavens and even the carrier of the feeding technique might not be able to withstand a single punch. That's strong? Luo Lauer cried out. The giant Corpse King punched the carrier. This was just physical strength and there was nothing worth converting into an energy source. Qiu Zhan shouted, good timing. A bright white light illuminated the heavens as he faced the giant corpse king's punch without fear and punched back. The difference in size was like the difference between heaven and earth, but their strength was equally matched. There was a loud bang and the heavens exploded as countless spatial cracks spread out, devouring the corpse king and tearing apart the carrier of the feeding technique. The giant corpse king looked up and punched out again. Zhou Xian attacked again, but at this moment, a cold voice rang out in Lu Yin's ears from behind. Feeding slaughter 3 segments. Fire. A dark beam of light appeared, giving the corpse king no time to dodge. It pierced through its body and extended for an unknown distance. Lu Yin's eyes narrowed. This was the power of a half-progenitor. This was definitely the power of a half-progenitor. Was this the feeding technique? Countless people from the hyperspace society cheered. Suiyu's eyes lit up. This is the power of the hyperspace society. So what if it's the Eternals? They'll still be obliterated. Mudo clenched his fists. He had to join the council to be able to control such terrifying power. Otherwise, even if he trained for his entire life, he would not be able to do so. The black light slowly dissipated. Zhou Xian was dissatisfied. Who fired it? I haven't had enough yet. Cheers rang out. Everyone thought the corpse king was dead for sure. The giant corpse king's body swayed and its arms drooped down powerlessly, falling forward. Lu Yin's gaze suddenly turned cold. He wasn't dead. The zombie king's fallen body suddenly rushed out. He was not far away from the carrier of the art of feeding. He used all his strength to push Zhou Xian away. With a loud bang, the carrier was hit. Luo Lauer lost his balance and fell. Many people fell down. Lu Yin looked up and saw the giant corpse king raise its left arm, clenching it into a fist and smashing it down. Zhou Xian was infuriated. His eyes turned red as he instantly appeared behind the corpse king and kicked his arm. Under the bright white light, a powerful force was unleashed wantonly, lifting the corpse king to the left. Zhou Xian still wasn't satisfied. His body landed on the corpse king's head. Die! There was another loud bang as the carrier exploded. This time the corpse king was completely dead, but cracks had appeared on the carrier, and many of its energy sources had been extinguished. Countless scarlet eyes appeared in all directions, and at the same time, more giant corpse kings walked out and charged at the carrier. Fire! Zhou Xian roared. Beams of black light shot out, but compared to the previous one they were much weaker. The giant carrier of the art of feeding had more than one gift emitter, and the power of each beam varied depending on the size of the source box. Lu Yin looked up at the beams of black light that streaked across the sky. The cloud-like power caused the void to shatter. In contrast, countless corpse kings surged forward. Just as the others had said, Zhou Xian was the commander and he charged at the front. The bright white light was incomparably dazzling. The local creatures of the drifting cloud space charged into space, and Lu Yin did not know how many of them there were. Some of them were strong while others were weak. He saw a half-ancestor powerhouse among them. The horns on their heads directly absorbed the cloud-like power and then unleashed all sorts of attacks. These creatures were almost the same as humans, and they were also from a cultivation civilization. Rain fell from the sky as corpses fell from the sky. There were creatures from the drifting cloud space, corpse kings from the Eternals, and even people from beyond the space-time continuum. The carrier of the art of feeding had a huge energy source that could absorb the energy of any nearby creature and convert it into attack power. This also caused the Eternals to constantly approach and try to destroy the energy source. However, until now the closest to it was that giant half-ancestor corpse king. No one else could get close. Are you stunned? Luo Lauer shouted. When he saw that many people were looking at him, he raised his head and said, I've seen this kind of battle before and more than once. You won't die if you don't brag, Suiyu said with his back to him. Luo Lauer giggled. Sister Yu, I've seen it before in our space-time continuum. After all, I have an older brother who died on the battlefield. Suiyu was stunned and turned to look at Luo Lauer with a strange expression. Mudo and many others looked at Luo Lauer strangely. Was this something worth bragging about? Luo Lauer puffed out his chest and said, For us from the Three Monarchs space-time continuum, dying on the battlefield is glorious. He then changed the topic. Of course, I'm from beyond the space-time continuum now, so the Three Monarchs space-time continuum has nothing to do with me. Of course, Shimu replied. Even Lu Yin wanted to say something along the lines of nonsense. The periphery of the bestow technique was filled with eternal corpse kings, and no one knew how many of them there were. They only knew that if these corpse kings were not dealt with, the war would not end. Everyone had thought that it would be a war of attrition, but when the first corpse king appeared on one of the platforms and slaughtered everyone from beyond the space-time continuum, their expressions changed. Kill, kill, they're killing their way in, someone shouted in fear. Luo Lauer hurriedly covered that person's mouth. Don't speak, you're courting death. Mudo's face paled. That corpse king had forcefully charged over. It was not that this corpse king was stronger than a half-martial ancestor, but that it had dodged the black light beam and used its physical strength to prevent it from being absorbed by the energy source. It was impossible for the bestow technique to have so many corpse kings, and there had to be some that had been missed. The corpse king's goal was the platforms, and they knew that these platforms were working for the energy source. They wanted to kill everyone on the platforms. Whenever the first corpse king charged over, a second would follow. Powerhouses from Drifting Cloud and beyond continuously attacked, and the platforms were destroyed one after another. Every time a platform was destroyed, the energy source's ability and range to absorb energy would decrease. Lu Yin's platform was completely silent, and no one dared to speak to attract the corpse king's attention. However, in the end, none of them managed to escape. A man stared blankly at the corpse king that was climbing up from behind the platform, and his pupils shrank as he screamed. His right eye's lens constantly flickered with light, guiding him to escape. This was a battlefield navigation system that was identical to the one that Zijing had created. Even with the battlefield navigation system, it could not make up for the difference. The man did not even have time to use his energy source before the corpse king waved its hand and pierced through his head. The corpse king then leaped over the platform and attacked Mudo, who was the closest to it. Mudo's energy source glowed with a green light that wrapped around his arm. He raised his palm and the green light swept forward, but the corpse king easily avoided it. Mudo's attack had the strength of a beacon lighter, but since the corpse king was able to reach the platform, it definitely had the power of an emissary. Mudo was not scared silly, and it was already quite impressive that he had been able to attack, but it was meaningless. The corpse king took a step forward, and its scarlet eyes reflected Mudo's terrified and despairing expression. He had never felt death so close before. Was he going to die? Was he really going to die? He was from the Mu family, and the Mu family was one of the upper echelons of transdimensional. He should not die here. The corpse king's palm descended, and layers of ripples appeared in the void beneath its palm. This attack not only wanted to kill Mudo, but it also wanted to destroy the platform. At the critical moment, another green light lashed out with a long whip that swept up Mudo. There was a loud bang as the platform trembled and cracked open. Mudo was flung to the side by the whip as Suyu had made his move. Attack together or else none of us will survive. Suyu barked. The rest of the people attacked as well. Most of them used blue energy, but almost everyone in Suyu's circle used green energy. A total of 6 Pekin lighters attacked the corpse king in a single manner, but there were so many of them that Lu Yin was astonished. Was this transdimensional's battle style? Although their individual power levels were boosted by their energy sources to the point where they could rival cultivators of the same realm, they were still far from being able to fight a cultivator in a one-on-one battle. What transdimensional truly relied on was the feed technique and its energy sources. No matter how many enlighters they had, it was useless against an emissary, let alone a corpse king. Corpse kings were already stronger than cultivators of the same realm. The palm attack did not destroy the platform, and the corpse king ignored everyone's attacks. It looked at the person who had activated the platform, which was a woman. Even now, the woman still had not pulled her arm out of the cube. She did not dare, or rather she had been scared silly. When the corpse king's scarlet eyes looked over, the woman's face went pale and her entire body trembled. Suyu gritted his teeth. Luo Air, aren't you from the Three Sovereigns universe? You're from a cultivation civilization. Luo Air was bitter. There are strong cultivators and weak cultivators. I'm just an attendant and I'm not as strong as you guys. The corpse king attacked and casually waved its hand. At this moment Lu Yin made his move. He used his footwork battle technique to rapidly approach the corpse king. His palm struck the back of the corpse king's head, and a green energy was released from his chest. Even if the corpse king was an emissary, it would still be unlucky to unleash the strength of a Pekin lighter at such close range. No one had expected Lu Yin to make a move, and his movement technique was so fast that it was almost invisible. They all thought that Lu Yin's attack would succeed, but the Corpse King was even faster and easily dodged the attack. Instead, it appeared behind Lu Yin and raised its arm high before striking down. Chapter 2499. Lu Yin didn't even move. At the critical moment, a black beam streaked past his head, brushing past his scalp as it struck the Corpse King and shattered its head, causing its body to slowly fall to the ground. It was the feed technique. Lu Yin looked up. Hyperspace wouldn't allow him to be in danger, or what would happen to Zijing? However, he had to show that he was different from the rest, at least something that hyperspace could accept. The black beam destroyed the Corpse King, and on the platform, Lu Yin patted his chest and looked at the frightened girl. "I'll do it." She seemed to wake up from a dream, withdrawing her arm with reddened eyes. She hid in a corner, not daring to let anyone see her cry. He was truly frightened. Nobody laughed at him. These nobles had never experienced something like this before. This platform was filled with noble disciples. They should have gone to other battlefields, the kind where the strongest enemy was the emissaries. With their strength, they should be able to protect themselves. It was not here where any Corpse King could sweep them away. Lu Yin pressed his arm against the square and wiped his forehead. Zhou Xian and the rest looked at him. "Who are you?" Lu Yin's movement technique was definitely not ordinary. At least they couldn't do it. They could only borrow the power of the energy source to release their attacks, but their bodies were far from being as strong as the energy source. They couldn't do what Lu Yin had done, nor could they learn it. "A cultivator," Luo Lauer answered. The rest were shocked. "A cultivator?" "Yes, he should be a cultivator. He's a cultivator." "Which civilization is he from?" "Xian." "Never heard of that name." Mudo stepped forward and stared at Lu Yin. "Who are you?" Even an idiot would know that Muscleman wouldn't be able to bully Lu Yin with his movement technique. It was already good enough that he didn't bully others. There was a loud explosion as the platform close to them shattered, sending countless fragments flying in all directions. Lu Yin said, "We'll talk about it after this battle ends." Mudo looked at him deeply. "You better give me an explanation." He then turned and left. Zhou Yu and the rest looked at Lu Yin, but their attention was quickly drawn to the battle, afraid that another powerful Corpse King would appear. Fortunately, the battle ended a few days later and no more Corpse Kings rushed to their platforms. The closest ones had been destroyed by the feed technique, as if their platforms had been taken care of. Seeing that the starry sky was filled with floating corpses, the originally dark starry sky turned red. The bearer of the art of feeding began to move, continuing to head south. The various platforms began to be repaired and the casualties were counted. Most of Transdimensional's losses were from these resources, but there were also many casualties. Lu Yin was surrounded by the crowd and everyone was looking at him. "Brother, tell me, what's your background?" Luo Lauer asked. Mudo growled, "Speak." Zhou Yu held the whip in his hand and sized up Lu Yin. In the distance, Muscleman's group of people craned their necks to watch. Lu Yin pursed his lips. "Let me formally introduce myself. This is Xianxia and he came here with Zijing less than a month ago." Everyone's jaws dropped, especially Luo Lauer's. His jaws were so wide that one could stuff an energy source into them. "You're the man that Zijing cares about?" Lu Yin looked at him and smiled. "It's me." Luo Lauer blinked. Many people felt strange. Before coming to the drifting cloud space, they had discussed this matter quite a lot. They had all said that they wanted to find that person and snatch Zijing away. Who would have thought that that person was right next to them? Zhou Yu was speechless. "Why didn't you say so from the start?" Lu Yin replied, "I'm not familiar with them and I was captured. To Transdimensional, I'm considered half an enemy." Mudo gritted his teeth. "You've been messing with me this whole time." Lu Yin seriously replied, "Of course not. I'm unfamiliar with Transdimensional, so I don't dare to casually provoke others. It's true that I was bullied." He then smiled. "It's also true that you saved me. Those 2 slaps were very satisfying. Thank you." Zhou Yu's eyes narrowed. She didn't know why, but when she saw Lu Yin smile, she felt that this guy wasn't as pure as he seemed. "Is that the only reason?" Mudo didn't believe it. Lu Yin nodded. "Who likes to be bullied?" Mudo thought about it and agreed. "What's your strength?" Luo Lauer asked. This was the question that everyone was more interested in, as they were curious about the cultivation civilizations. There were too many civilizations in the universe, and their cultivation civilizations were the most common ones. There were more than 1 or 2 civilizations in the Sixth Direction Association, and it was impossible for them all to learn about them. Luo Lauer had been able to join their circle because he was from a cultivation civilization, which piqued their curiosity. Lu Yin's current situation had piqued their curiosity as well. These people didn't do anything because Lu Yin had concealed his identity. After all, no one would expose themselves in an unfamiliar place, and Lu Yin had just saved them. Qiu Zhan had clearly ordered that the platform had to be activated. If not for Lu Yin stalling for time and saving that girl, the platform would have been extinguished, which meant that they had violated military orders. Just this point alone was enough for Lu Yin to be accepted. Brother, you're too cautious. Transdimensional is quite open to accepting extraterrestrial civilizations. Even if you're from a cultivation civilization, they might accept you as long as you surrender, Luo Lauer said as he patted Lu Yin's shoulder. Mudo snorted and turned to leave. He was still unhappy that he had been tricked. If they really fought, he definitely wouldn't be Lu Yin's match. Zuiyu was very curious, and she kept asking Lu Yin which cultivation civilization he was from. Lu Yin's strength was not enough for her to understand certain things, such as the Genesis space. With his strength as an enlighter, he shouldn't have been able to understand it. Thus he only told Zuiyu some very basic information. Even this information was enough to excite Zuiyu. She had heard about the top 100 rankings, the 10 arbiters, the Supreme Tournament, and all sorts of hot-blooded battles that could only be found in cultivation civilizations. This was something that ultra-spacetime lacked. Humans were hot-blooded, and Qiu Zhan had charged into the battlefield alone. This was his passion. As Lu Yin spoke, Mudo perked up his ears to listen. The more he listened, the tighter his fists became. He also wanted to fight for a place in the top 100 rankings and become the leader of the younger generation, becoming one of the 10 arbiters. Luo Lauer cried out, "Brother, your transdimensional space is too passionate. What's it called?" Mudo and the rest looked at Lu Yin. Lu Yin was confused. "I don't know." Luo Lauer wanted to say something else, but a figure landed on the platform and shook it. Everyone instinctively dodged, but they relaxed when they saw that it was Qiu Zhan. How many died? Qiu Zhan's gaze swept across the crowd before finally landing on Luo Lauer. Luo Lauer's smile faded as he muttered, "1." Qiu Zhan looked at the man whose head had been smashed by the Corpse King. "Only 1 died, not bad. How was your experience? Very satisfying, right?" "Ah." Everyone fell silent. Death had been close at hand, and they wanted to listen to Lu Yin's story because they wanted to lessen the fear in their hearts. Qiu Zhan looked at Zuiyu. "You're not bad. You took the initiative to save someone." Zuiyu's face was still pale. "It's what I should do." Qiu Zhan looked at Lu Yin. "I heard what you said." He then looked at the others. "You don't know, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. When you reach a higher level one day and see more people, you'll know that what he said isn't strange at all. Listen up, I'll repeat myself. The platform must be activated. This is a military order and it cannot be changed. This is a mission for all of you and you must complete it even if you die. Do you hear me?" "Yes," they all replied. Qiu Zhan sneered. "A bunch of women. Answer me again, do you hear me?" "Sir." They all shouted. Qiu Zhan left and the feed techniques carrier continued south. All sorts of metal equipment were transported over and installed on the carrier. Ever since Lu Yin had made his move, Mudo no longer allowed him to replace him in activating the platform, instead starting it himself. Zuiyu seemed to have set his sights on Lu Yin, and he kept asking about the cultivation civilization and even wanted to spar with him. Lu Yin had finally gotten rid of Zuiyu, but Luo Lauer was staring at him again. "Brother, what kind of technique has Zijing grasped? Tell me." Lu Yin sat on the ground quietly. "I don't know." Luo Lauer replied, "How could you not know? You're her man." Lu Yin looked at Luo Lauer with a solemn expression. "Tell me about the 3 sovereigns' realms. I'm very curious." Luo Lauer pouted. "What's there to talk about? Curious. In exchange, I'll ask you a question and you'll ask me a question." "Sure, I'll go first." Luo Lauer said, "Go ahead." Lu Yin thought about it. "Between the 3 sovereigns' realms and hyperspace, which one is stronger?" Luo Lauer rolled his eyes. "Let me put it this way. I'm a hostage placed in hyperspace by the 3 sovereigns, But hyperspace doesn't place any hostages in the three sovereigns' realms. Lu Yin understood. It's my turn. What kind of technique has Zijing grasped? Why is hyperspace so concerned about it? If I'm not wrong, the reason why she used the bestowal technique in the previous battle was to protect you. Under Commander Zhou Xian's command, such a thing has never happened before. Even the decision-makers wouldn't protect you. Lu Yin smiled. I don't know. Luo Lauer was stunned. Brother, that's not very nice of you. I'm not hiding anything. Lu Yin was very calm. I'm not hiding anything either, but I really don't know what technique she grasped. More accurately, I don't understand. Luo Lauer felt his teeth ache. Can you at least repeat what she said to me? Lu Yin thought about it. Commander Qiu Zhan heard our conversation, which means that this platform is being monitored. Something might happen if you ask that. Luo Lauer's face twitched. He had asked too hastily. A hostage asking about a technique that even hyperspace cared about could be a big deal. He immediately laughed and patted Lu Yin's shoulder. I'm just joking. Why are you so nervous? Do you think I'll harm you? Don't make wild guesses. I'm just curious. Lu Yin replied, I really don't know. I'll help you ask Zijing the next time I see her. No need, I'll change the question. It's my turn. You didn't answer. I did. I don't know. That counts? Then forget it. Oh. So does it or not? Luo Lauer gritted his teeth. Yes. Chapter 2500. Lu Yin continued. What's the relationship between the three sovereigns? Luo Bro was confused. Husband and wife, everyone knows that. I'm asking about their personalities, Lu Yin reminded him. Luo Bro was confused. You're curious about that? Don't tell me your spacetime is connected to the three sovereigns' spacetime? Then you're done for. Lu Yin's expression changed, but his expression remained calm. What do you mean? Are they really connected? Luo Bro's eyes widened in schadenfreude. Let me tell you. He suddenly paused. Wait, it's my turn to ask. What's your relationship with Zijing? Lu Yin naturally answered, friends. Luo Bro was confused. Not husband and wife? Not yet, Lu Yin said. He and Zijing were indeed friends, but as for husband and wife, they really hadn't and couldn't be. Of course he left out the last part. Luo Bro moved closer. If I want to pursue Zijing, you won't have a problem, right? Lu Yin was confused. You'll get beaten up if you talk like that. Luo Bro's face turned bitter. Brother, please understand. I don't have a choice as a hostage, it's my instinct to protect myself. Lu Yin looked away. I can have Zijing acknowledge you as her younger brother. Luo Bro was surprised. That works too, alright brother-in-law. Suiyu was passing by and heard Luo Bro's address, so he came over. What brother-in-law? Luo Bro, he's your brother-in-law? Isn't he Zijing's man? Luo Bro replied loudly, I'm Zijing's younger brother. Bullshit. Mudo also heard, you're a pitiful worm abandoned by the three sovereigns. You're the pitiful one, your whole family is pitiful. I'm Zijing's younger brother and this is my brother-in-law, Luo Bro shamelessly admitted. Lu Yin was speechless and faced everyone's gazes. Family misfortune. Luo Bro's face twitched. Brother-in-law, don't talk nonsense, I'm your pride. Suiyu glared at Lu Yin. When did Zijing acknowledge him as her younger brother? Luo Bro smiled. Can't I acknowledge him as my brother-in-law? Bro, you're asking for a beating. Suiyu took out his whip. After finally coaxing Suiyu and the others away, Lu Yin brought up the topic again. Earlier you said that it would be bad luck if you were connected to one of the three sovereigns. What did you mean? Luo Lauer sighed. Brother-in-law, since you're my brother-in-law now, I won't hide it from you. That old man of mine is a selfish and controlling bastard. Do you know what his favorite collection is? When he saw Lu Yin's confused expression, Luo Lauer answered seriously, Eternal coordinates. Lu Yin's gaze turned cold. What coordinates? Luo Lauer said, Brother-in-law, you still need to improve your knowledge. If you have the time, you should read more books. Tearing through the void allows you to go to a parallel universe, and you can return to the parallel universe you were born in at any time. However, if you want to go to another parallel universe, you need to have the coordinates. Otherwise, it's just a matter of luck. My father likes to steal the coordinates of the Eternals and then open up a parallel universe. Once he finds the coordinates that he likes, he can go there at any time. The purpose is very simple. He calls himself a monarch and his cultivation realms are categorized as servant, monarch and so on. What do you think he will do when he controls space-time? Actually, the drifting cloud space is a parallel universe controlled by the hyperspace. Here are the coordinates of the hyperspace. Look at how miserable the creatures in the drifting cloud space are. Send them to their deaths and the hyperspace will take all the benefits. I'm not afraid of General Zhou Xian and the others hearing this. They don't care at all. Luo Lauer said a lot. It was unknown whether he really recognized Lu Yin as his brother-in-law or something else, but he made a mess of the three monarchs' space-time and almost said that he was the second Eternals. As for his father Lord Luo, he was directly scolded. He's your father, Lu Yin reminded him. Luo Lauer angrily rebuked, Father my ass. He doesn't care about us at all. He only cares about the son he had with Mu Jun. Do you know how many sons he has now? 125 of them. I'm the second oldest. Many years ago I was treated as a hostage and left in hyperspace. Fortunately, other than the son he had with Mu Jun, most of the others died. I said before that my brother died on the battlefield because he forced him. In his eyes we're just tools. Do the people in the three monarchs space-time understand Lord Luo? Lu Yin asked. Luo Lauer replied, as long as they reach a certain level they do. Lu Yin nodded. This was probably why Guyu had sealed off the passage. If Lord Luo was really as Luo Lauer had said, then allowing him to enter the fifth mainland was definitely not a good thing. At that time the fifth mainland had only had a half-ancestor, and the strongest had been Elder Chan. He would not have been able to fight back against Lord Luo. Even if they had opened a path to the cosmic tree, Lord Luo and the other two could deal with one of the seven sky gods. Brother-in-law, is your space-time really connected to the three monarchs space-time? Luo Lauer asked. Lu Yin shook his head. No. Then why are you asking so many questions? I'm just curious. I'm really curious. If I'd known I wouldn't have said all that. It's a waste of saliva. Right, when can I meet my sister? Lu Yin looked at the sky. We'll talk about it when we get back alive. Hehe, you'll definitely be able to return alive. My sister is too important. As for me, I should be able to do it too since I'm a hostage. The others might not be able to do it, Luo Lauer gloated. Mudwa shouted, Luo Lauer, are you cursing us to not be able to return? Luo Lauer cried out, Mudwa, don't spout nonsense. I'm not cursing you. Ask my brother-in-law if you don't believe me. Lu Yin understood. This Luo Lauer was indeed asking for a beating. The Eternals in the drifting cloud space seemed to have been wiped out, and no Eternals appeared for the next half a month. During this time Luo Lauer had gotten used to calling Lu Yin brother-in-law, and was more intimate than anyone else. However, whenever Lu Yin asked about the three monarchs space, Luo Lauer would try to find a way to get some information from Lu Yin. This gave Lu Yin the feeling that Luo Lauer was not at a disadvantage, even if it was a trivial matter. Brother-in-law, I feel like something's wrong, Luo Lauer whispered to Lu Yin. Lu Yin was used to Luo Lauer's sudden outbursts, and during this time, Luo Lauer had been trying to worm his way into Lu Yin's good books. What's wrong now? It's too quiet, Luo Lauer said solemnly. Lu Yin frowned as he felt the same way. Based on his understanding of the Eternals, they wouldn't be so quiet unless they found that giant scarlet eye and drove them out. I've seen the battle records of the drifting cloud space. Luo Lauer sat down beside Lu Yin and whispered, the more hyperspace reinforcements the drifting cloud space, the faster the Eternals attack and the stronger their attacks. However, more than one Commander Qiuzhan died in the previous battle. The Eternals haven't made a move yet, so there must be something wrong. I'm guessing that we might encounter the strongest Corpse King next. Lu Yin's heart skipped a beat. A Corpse King that can rival a black energy source. Luo Lauer nodded. Using the three monarch spaces standard of classification, it's a monarch that can rival my father. Has such a Corpse King appeared in the drifting cloud space before? Lu Yin asked. Luo Lauer shook his head. There's no record of it. Also, Commander Qiuzhan only used a white energy source. Although he offended the council, if a monster of that level had appeared in this space, the council wouldn't have given the commander a black energy source just because he offended them. Maybe the commander has a black energy source but you don't know about it, Lu Yin said. Luo Lauer pondered. That's possible. Some of the elders in the council are quite sinister. They purposely sent a commander who didn't get along with them to make the Eternals think that Commander Zhou Xian doesn't have a black energy source. If the Eternals send a monarch corpse king over, they'll definitely be beaten senseless. Lu Yin sighed. You'd better pray that there isn't a corpse king of that level. In a duel, you and I both come from a cultivation civilization, so we know very well that we won't be a match for a cultivator of the same realm with just a black energy source. Luo Lao rolled his eyes. Brother-in-law, look, it's been so long. Why don't we try to contact my sister? Take us out of here? Lu Yin glanced at him. This was the guy's true goal. He wanted to get close to Zijing and escape from this battlefield. You seem to be especially afraid of the drifting cloud space. Lu Yin was puzzled. Luo Lao smiled. I'm afraid of all battlefields. If I can avoid them, I won't. As a hostage, it's unlikely that you'll enter the battlefield. Why are you here? Lu Yin had been curious about this for a long time. Who would send a hostage to the battlefield? If a hostage died, it would aggravate the conflict between the two spacetimes. Luo Lao's eyes flashed and he laughed dryly. It wasn't supposed to be this battlefield, and since you're here as well, it should be safe here. Lu Yin stood up. It's my turn. He was going to activate the cube. Not long after, Lu Yin retracted his hand and it was Mudo's turn. Lu Yin followed the corridor beside the platform and walked towards the interior of the vessel. He had already walked this path several times in order to replenish his energy. It was quite a distance from the platform to the place where he replenished his energy, and he saw quite a few people replenishing their energy along the way. Some were walking forward while others were returning. Suddenly, Lu Yin stopped and slowly turned his head to look at the metal wall beside him. The wall was made of metal and all sorts of lights flowed within it. He stared at one of the lights and a strange look flashed through his eyes. What a unique innate gift. The moment he spoke, a light shot out from the golden wall towards Lu Yin's head. Lu Yin easily dodged it, but the light changed direction and turned into a blade that slashed downwards. The dark green lens in his right eye continuously flashed with numbers, and Lu Yin retreated step by step. At the same time he took off his glasses and a blurry figure appeared in front of him. This person was hiding within the light, which reminded Lu Yin of someone from the Radiant Realm. The Scion of Light's innate gift was light, and he could see but not touch. He had fought with the Scion of Light before, but that had been a long time ago. After he had become a Dao disciple of the Above Heaven sect, the Radiant Realm had given him a grain of fates, and that had belonged to the Scion of Light. Chapter 2501. The figure kept changing positions, hiding within the light as she tried to attack Lu Yin. However, no matter what she did, it was useless. She couldn't even touch the corner of Lu Yin's clothes. Lu Yin took action and grabbed the figure. His body flickered as he entered the corner of the wall. This was a blind spot and the only way out was blocked by Lu Yin. It was also difficult for the people outside to see this place. At this moment the figure became clear. It was a woman wearing the battle uniform of someone from space-time. She stared at Lu Yin nervously and fearfully. The reason why Lu Yin had pulled her here was because she had horns on her head. She was from the drifting cloud space. Let go, she barked. Lu Yin released her. Don't try to attack me. You won't be able to bear the consequences. The woman retreated until she reached the edge of the wall. She could no longer retreat and she looked at Lu Yin without saying anything. You're from the drifting cloud space? Lu Yin was curious. He sized him up. You're not from space-time. Why not? Lu Yin was astonished. She replied, if I were from space-time I would have been captured by now. Lu Yin nodded. I'm just curious. If you're from the drifting cloud space, why are you hiding in the wall? Don't you guys fight here as well? Which space-time do you come from? She asked. Lu Yin's gaze turned cold as an invisible pressure descended. It was as if the sky was collapsing and the earth was collapsing, causing the entire space to shatter. The woman was shocked, and at that moment she felt a sense of despair that she had never experienced before. It was as if a god had descended upon this world, causing her mind to go blank. Her body slowly collapsed as she lost control. However, it only lasted for an instant. By the time Lu Yin retracted his aura, the woman was already on the verge of collapsing. She reflexively twisted her body to prevent herself from falling, but when she looked up again, her eyes filled with fear. She was in disbelief. She had never experienced such might before, and she was completely at a loss for words. Lu Yin looked at her with interest. Do you still want to ask me questions? She lowered her head. No, I wouldn't dare. Lu Yin's interest had been piqued the moment he'd arrived in this space-time. The power that flowed through the starry sky like water had caught his attention, and some of the cultivators from the drifting cloud space weren't weak. In the previous battle he'd seen a powerhouse from the drifting cloud space take action, and that powerhouse could rival a half-ancestor. This was an authentic cultivation civilization. However, this civilization was conquered by hyperspace. He wanted to see transdimensional's foundation through this civilization and understand transdimensional as much as possible. Since the drifting cloud spacetime could produce a half-step ancestor, it shouldn't be too weak. He wanted to know if there were any ancestor realm powerhouses in the drifting cloud spacetime. At the same time, back in hyperspace, a melodious voice came from the staircase with blooming flowers. How's your progress? At the bottom of the stairs, 3 people were half kneeling, 2 men and 1 woman. Their heads were lowered and their expressions were pious. Your Excellency, everything went smoothly. We definitely won't let you down. Yes, whether it's the cultivation civilization or the virtual god civilization, there's value in learning. If you're always immersed in our own civilization, you'll be surpassed by others sooner or later. I hope that you can bring a craze of cultivation to everyone in hyperspace and show those people in the council that integrating civilizations is the future. A pleasant voice with a perfect aura was heard. The 3 of them were excited. Sir, go to the drifting cloud space and use what you've learned there. If you can attract Qiu Zhan's interest, he'll become my lackey. We pledge our lives to you, sir. Back in the drifting cloud space, Lu Yin looked at the woman in front of him with deep shock. If what she said was true, then the drifting cloud space had been greatly damaged by the drifting cloud space. He thought of Guyu again and how wise she had been to not allow the 3 sovereigns to connect to the 5th mainland. The 5th mainland could not follow in the footsteps of the drifting cloud space. To us, perhaps being transformed into a corpse king isn't unacceptable. It's better than being tortured day after day by the drifting cloud space. They don't have any emotions and we're not living beings in their eyes. We're just tools. Who's the most powerful person in the drifting cloud space? Lu Yin asked. The woman replied, Lord Drifting Cloud. Lord Drifting Cloud? This space is named after him? Lu Yin was astonished. The woman nodded. Before Lord Drifting Cloud appeared, very few people in our space cultivated, and the heavens weren't like this either. It was Lord Drifting Cloud who changed the heavens and allowed the water-like power to wrap around the stars, allowing us to cultivate. The horns on our heads were also born from cultivating Lord Drifting Cloud's power. It's to make it easier for us to cultivate this power. Lu Yin's eyes flashed. This Lord Drifting Cloud was definitely a progenitor and had the power to change the heavens and the earth. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to affect the entire space and change the form of life. Suddenly, an alarm sounded. Lu Yin's expression changed. The Eternals are attacking. He turned around and left. As for the woman, she stood there in a daze. She had been spared. Lu Yin wasn't worried that she would expose him. So what if she did? He wasn't from the drifting cloud space and he didn't care about the grudges between the 2. Countless scarlet vertical eyes appeared outside the host's body and charged towards it. Lu Yin sped up to replenish his energy, and by the time he returned to the platform, more than a day had passed. Brother-in-law, it's even more intense this time. Careful. Luo Lauer shouted out a warning. Lu Yin looked up into space and saw black beams of light forming a grid that covered the sky. Countless corpse kings roared as they charged over, and some of them had already reached the platform. Many of the platforms had already been destroyed. After the previous battle, the aristocratic disciples were much calmer this time. Of course, they were still afraid. Countless cultivators from the drifting cloud space rushed out and fought to the death. Lu Yin looked at the cultivators from the drifting cloud space again, and his gaze changed. They weren't just facing the fate of being defeated. Over the next few days, intense battles continued. There's a corpse king. Someone shouted. Several beams of light swept across the area, and a corpse king emerged from the metal corridor and charged towards the platform. Zui Yu and the others worked together to attack it. However, the corpse king had the power of an emissary and wasn't something that the people on the platform could resist. Luo Lauer wailed, Again? Why are we always the unlucky ones? Zui Yu gritted his teeth. As the corpse king approached, it brought with it the aura of death. It was so oppressive that they wanted to flee but they didn't dare. With a boom, the Corpse King crashed onto the platform. It looked up, and its scarlet vertical eyes made everyone despair. They had already faced this Corpse King once, and they knew that even if they all attacked together, they would only be slaughtered. Zhou Xian let out a long breath and removed the green energy source from his heart before replacing it with a new one. The Corpse King moved and punched out. In this place, no one could use energy to attack, otherwise it would be absorbed by the energy source. It would be absorbed by the energy source, and the Corpse King could only use its physical strength. A ray of blue light flashed past, and the Corpse King suddenly stopped. It turned around, and its scarlet vertical eyes saw a long whip that pierced through the void and whipped its body into pieces. Zhou Xian spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to one knee. She clutched at her heart, her face pale. Lu Yin stood beside her and quickly went to support her. She had forcefully used the blue energy source, and her power level had exceeded 800,000 in an instant. Her body had almost collapsed. "I'm fine." Zhou Yu's voice was hoarse as she slowly sat on the ground and pulled out the blue energy source. Luo Lauer patted his chest. "I almost died. Thank goodness, thank goodness." Mudo was shocked. "You can use a blue energy source?" Zhou Yu wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth. "I use it once and rest for half a month." "That's not bad," Mudo envied. Luo Lauer asked, "Why don't you use it too? You have it anyway." Someone immediately agreed. "That's right, Mudo. Use it too, we have high hopes for you." "Use it, who knows if more Corpse Kings will come," someone else said. This time it was the muscular man who had spoken. A shriek came from the platform beside them. Everyone looked over, and at some point, a Corpse King had appeared on that platform and was slaughtering its way through. Blood flowed like a river. Everyone was stunned. What were they talking about? Zhou Yu clenched her fists. She could no longer use the blue energy source, so she took it out and tossed it to Mudo. "Hurry up and use it." Mudo caught it and looked up. Coincidentally, the Corpse King on the platform had looked over and suddenly charged out. This distance was only an instant for the Corpse King. He hurriedly took out the energy source from his heart and replaced it with the blue one. When the blue light lit up, the expected scene of him killing the Corpse King did not happen. Mudo also coughed up blood and collapsed. He could not use it at all. "Luo Lauer, use it," Mudo said with difficulty. There was blood at the corner of his mouth, and he looked extremely miserable. Luo Lauer was afraid and looked at Lu Yin bitterly. "Brother-in-law." Lu Yin decisively grabbed the blue energy source. At this moment, the Corpse King landed on the platform. They did not notice that there were people approaching from the other side as well. When the Corpse King landed on their platform, a woman also landed. She was one of the three kneeling at the bottom of the stairs. Everyone's attention was on the Corpse King and no one noticed her. Only Lu Yin noticed her. She looked curiously at the blue energy source in Lu Yin's hand. She had not expected that there would be someone on this platform who could use it. The Corpse King attacked, waving its arms in front of it. Anyone who was touched by it would die without a doubt. "Brother-in-law, hurry." Luo Lauer cried out. Lu Yin pretended to grit his teeth. "I'm going all out." He then took out the green energy source from his heart. The woman had underestimated him, but it turned out that he was going all out. She pulled out the sword at her waist and stabbed out. The blue light blossomed and attracted the Corpse King's attention. The sword landed in the Corpse King's palm and she lifted it up. The blue energy tore through the void and slashed diagonally at the Corpse King. The Corpse King's arm was immediately severed and sent flying. The woman's sword was biting cold as she pressed down. Her movements were clean and efficient, and there were no superfluous moves. Lu Yin sighed in admiration, as this woman's swordsmanship was comparable to Li Zimo's when he had first joined the sword sect. Her swordsmanship was at the level of an enlighter, but with the support of the energy source, she could display the power of a fourth or even fifth tribulation origin tribulation cultivator. Coupled with her swordsmanship, killing the Corpse King was very easy. Chapter 2502. The sword slashed into the Corpse King's body, but it did not kill it. The Corpse King's right arm had been cut off, and it grabbed the sword with its left hand. It looked up and its gray eyes transformed, increasing its physical strength by 10 times. The woman was shocked. Corpse King transformation? With a bang, the sword cracked, and the Corpse King stabbed at the woman with the broken sword. A blue light appeared in front of her, and she used pure energy to blast the Corpse King away. He was sent flying. The Corpse King had used its Corpse King transformation to block the woman's sword, but that only meant that its physical strength was powerful. The woman's blue energy source had unleashed 4 or 5 origin tribulations, which was not something that the Corpse King could block. The Corpse King, after retreating, the woman gripped the broken sword's hilt and took a step forward. Her figure disappeared and the broken sword stabbed out at a strange angle. The Corpse King reached out to grab it, but it was unable to do so. The sword went past the Corpse King's arm and stabbed into its forehead. When the sword pierced through the Corpse King's forehead, the woman's figure appeared as well. She paused, straightened up and threw the Corpse King off the platform. The Corpse King no longer had any signs of life. On the platform, everyone stared blankly at the woman. "Sister Hong." Suyu cried out. The woman looked at Suyu and smiled. "Little you, we meet again." Suyu was pleasantly surprised. "Sister Hong, didn't you disappear?" The woman smiled and scanned the crowd. "Are you all right?" Mu Duo coughed a few times. "Sister Hong, I have something to do. It's just a physical injury. It's nothing serious. Just rest for half a month like little you." Luo Yu shouted. "Sister Hong, I'm here." "It's me. Do you remember Sister Hong?" The woman looked at him. "Of course I do. You're very well informed." "Hee, Sister Hong, where have you been these past few years?" Wu Yu asked. The woman looked up. "We'll talk later. This war won't be easy." She then leapt up, covered in blue energy, and flew off into the distance. Another Corpse King climbed onto the platform. Her last attack had been pretty good, and it had allowed her to unleash the power of an envoy. It was comparable to a sword sex sword technique. Did Ultra also have such a sword technique? "He's sure Hong that genius?" Some people whispered. "That's her. I've seen her once. Apparently, she was able to withstand a yellow energy source when she was 10 and green at 13. He's pretty amazing. He's quite a genius. Didn't they say she disappeared? I didn't think that you'd suddenly appear, and that you were using a cultivator's battle skill, right?" Many peoples as they didn't know much about battle techniques. Hyperspace cared more about the feed technique and the energy source. Zuyu, Mudwa and the rest all looked at Lu Yin. Lu Yin replied, "We'll talk about that after the battle ends. Pay attention to your surroundings and don't get ambushed by the Corpse Kings." If he didn't say anything, everyone would think that he was embarrassed. It was obvious that he felt that Shi Hong's battle technique surpassed his, or that he couldn't tell whether she was powerful or not. Blue light continuously flickered on the platform. Apart from Shi Hong, there were 2 other men who used battle skills to continuously destroy the Corpse Kings that appeared one after another, causing countless people to exclaim in admiration. A few days later, Shi Hong returned to Lu Yin's platform, only to find that there were no more Corpse Kings that had managed to charge in. "Sister Hong, you're amazing," Zuyu exclaimed. Shi Hong smiled. "You're not bad yourself. I saw a Corpse King die. You were the one who used the blue energy source, right?" Zuyu was embarrassed. "I'm far from being as good as you. I had to use it once to ambush a Corpse King, and it was the most ordinary one at that. Even then I had to rest for half a month." Shi Hong smiled. "Don't worry, you'll be like me soon." "Like what?" Zuyu didn't understand. Shi Hong looked behind her and saw Luo Yu approaching. She pricked up her ears to listen. She was annoyed. "Come over if you want to listen. You're sneaking around like before." Luo Yu laughed dryly. "Sister Hong, I'm just afraid of disturbing you." Shi Hong said, "There are some things that you'll find out soon. Some changes are happening, so we're opening the way for you." A man came to the platform. "Sister Hong, it's clean." Shi Hong nodded. "Get ready. We'll pay a visit to Commander Qiu Zhan after the war. He should be very satisfied with our performance." "Of course, we wiped out more than 10 Corpse Kings," the man said proudly. Lu Yin listened quietly. Shi Hong and this man both showed signs of cultivating battle techniques, and they had both reached the Enlighter realm. This was not simple, and Lu Yin was becoming more and more curious. Just as everyone thought that the war was about to end, a vast power shook the planet, causing the bearer of the bestow technique to stop abruptly. Even the energy source's light dimmed. Everyone looked up into the distance and felt an incomparably majestic and terrifying power. Lu Yin's face changed. It was a progenitor realm Corpse King. On the bearer, Qiu Zhan's pupils shrank, and the number on the dark green lens in his right eye flickered. His eyes widened. "This is trouble." To those who had transcended spacetime, a certain level of cultivator only existed in legends. It was a power that could change the heavens and change the earth, a power that they could not comprehend. That was the progenitor realm. Many cultivation civilizations had various names for this realm, but the only constant was that this realm was the final point of cultivation. Above the platform, the cracked earth continued to tremble and fly out under the terrifying pressure. The enormous bearer of the bestow technique was collapsing. Activate all platforms. I repeat, activate all platforms. Zhou Xian roared. The next moment, a figure suddenly appeared very close to the bearer of the bestow technique. It was so close that it could touch it. Everyone stared blankly. Under the energy source's protection, even traveling through the void was a delusion. Traveling through the void required an exchange of energy, and any energy produced would be absorbed by the energy source. This was why the Eternals could not get close to the bearer. But this figure appeared just like that without any warning. Zhou Xian licked his lips and twisted his arms. It's time to go all out. The figure's hair was disheveled and it was dressed in tattered clothes. It slowly raised its hand. Zhou Xian's eyes went wide. Attack. A black beam shot out from the side. Everyone's impression of this black beam was that it should extend endlessly and ignore space. Several powerful corpse kings had been pierced by this beam and died. However, at this moment, countless people's mouths were agape as they stared blankly. The black beam that should have been shooting into the distance had been cut in half at the waist. The figure's right hand was still slowly reaching towards the bearer of the bestow technique, but it raised its left hand and blocked the black beam. It was like a towering mountain. A mountain that was difficult to cross. With a bang, the figure's right hand pressed against the bearer. Cracks spread out from the point of contact and spread out in all directions at an extremely fast speed. The closest platform was directly shattered, and the people inside wanted to escape, but they were instantly turned into a pool of blood. The figure raised its head and looked forward with its scarlet eyes. My name is Nia. As soon as it finished speaking, the surrounding void completely distorted, turning everything it touched into nothingness in an arc, including the bearer of the bestow technique. On the bearer, the energy source emitted a rumbling sound as the formless light continuously shrunk until it was less than 10 meters away from the figure. The enormous bearer of the bestow technique's energy source was only effective against the corpse king, which was why it was barely able to resist the progenitor's power and maintain a temporary balance. Lu Yin's eyes widened. It was actually able to resist the power of a progenitor? Was this a cultivation technique? It was different from cultivation and technology. It was more like a combination of the two. It was an ability that refined cultivation into technology. Lu Yin's eyes brightened. He wanted this thing. The energy source's range had shrunk to only 10 meters away from the corpse king, which meant that it could no longer absorb energy to resist the Eternals' attacks. Scarlet eyes appeared one after another as countless corpse kings surged in from all directions, bringing about a truly desperate situation for the people of spacetime. Luolao's legs went weak, directly facing the monsters. Zuiyu's face was pale. She and Mudo could no longer fight and had to rest for half a month. She looked at the endless corpse kings and could not understand why she had fallen into such a desperate situation. With her family and background, she should not have fallen into such a desperate situation. Mudo was the same. This platform was filled with nobles, and regardless of their background, they were all in despair. In the face of an endless horde of corpse kings, who could say for sure that they could survive? Sister Hong, Luolao hurriedly rushed over. Sister Hong, you have to protect us. Everyone kept retreating, their backs against the metal wall as they watched the countless scarlet eyes approach. They prayed for Shi Hong's protection as only the blue energy source could give them a sense of security. Shi Hong's expression was solemn. She had not expected the progenitor corpse kings to suddenly appear, forcing everyone to face the Eternals directly. At this moment, even she was not confident. No one knew how many powerful monsters the Eternals had. Don't leave, the two of you. We'll work together, Shi Hong whispered. Beside her, the two men looked at each other and nodded. Only if the three of them worked together would they have any hope of survival. They had come here to train and were not under the control of this place. Even if they ran away now, no one would say anything, but that was the final step. Kill! A shout resounded through the heavens. Countless cultivators from the drifting cloud space rushed out of the carrier and attacked the Eternal Corpse Kings. Immediately after, the people of spacetime also rushed into space under the protection of the energy source. It was time to fight to the death. The war was like an unstoppable tsunami that drowned out everything in the blink of an eye. Whether it was in space, the carriers, the platforms, or even the corridors within the carriers, corpse kings rushed in. This was the first time that the Eternals had truly killed their way in since Lu Yin had arrived in this space. He had long since gotten used to it as he had experienced too many battles with the Eternals. However, the people of spacetime were clearly not used to it as they had never engaged in close combat with the Eternals. This led to the slaughter that followed the start of the war. One spacetime person after another fell and fresh blood flowed out of the carriers into space. One platform after another was extinguished, and countless cries for help and frantic shouts rang out everywhere. Chapter 2503. Lu Yin grabbed the Corpse King's shoulder, and a green light flashed from his palm as he shattered half of the Corpse King's body. He watched as the Corpse King's body fell to the ground. He looked around and saw that the platform was constantly flashing with blue light. Shi Hong and the two men were guarding the three sides of the platform, making it impregnable. However, because of their strength, they attracted even more Corpse Kings. One Corpse King after another fell, and in the blink of an eye, another Corpse King rushed over. The adjacent platforms were all dead silent and fresh blood stained the ground. Sister Hong, we can't do this, it'll only attract more monsters. If a monster with a power level of over 1,000,000 charges over, we won't be able to stop it, one of the men said. Shi Hong's face darkened. We'll take turns. You attack with the blue energy source first and we'll switch to the green one. We'll wait until you've used up all your energy, then we'll attack again. When only one of the three blue energy sources remained, the number of Corpse Kings attacking the platform decreased noticeably. Lu Yin and the others weren't idle either, and they quickly filled in the area that they hadn't defended. There were also many Corpse Kings charging over from that direction, but fortunately none of them were envoys yet. Previously, only envoys had been able to break through the blockade of the energy source and the carrier weapons, but now all the Corpse Kings were charging over. Most of them weren't very strong, and their corpses piled up like a mountain. Brother-in-law, slow down and use it sparingly. Otherwise the energy will run out, Luo Lauer reminded him. At some point, a palm-sized armor had appeared in front of his chest. It glowed with vibrant colors and looked very beautiful. Did you use the spatial power of the three sovereigns to simulate this armor? Lu Yin glanced at it. Luo Lauer was shocked. You can even tell? As expected of a cultivation civilization, no one else can tell. Lu Yin looked at the armor again. It can be used on weapons. Not bad. All right, brother-in-law, now's not the time to talk about this. They're coming, kill them. Luo Lauer shouted. Lu Yin waved his hand. He already had a staff in his hand and he swung it at the Corpse King, sending it flying. One Corpse King after another rushed over. If one looked from afar, they would see that the entire carrier was filled with Corpse Kings. It's over. Although there are many platforms, they are extinguishing one by one. Once less than half of the platforms are extinguished, we won't have the power to fight against the most terrifying monster. When that time comes, we'll all die, Luo Lauer wailed. He was considering tearing the void to return to the three sovereigns' space. He could do it anyway, but it would be troublesome if he went back. He would definitely be sent to the hyperspace. This was also the reason why the people on the platform did not escape. It was not that they did not want to escape, but that they did not dare to. If they escaped, they would definitely die. Even if they had a background like Sui Yu, they would definitely not be able to survive. The decision-making team would not let any deserters live. If they did not escape, perhaps they would not die and would still have a chance to live. This was the most torturous thing for them. To them, there was a path they could avoid before they died, but that path would still lead them to death. It was just that the time taken would be prolonged. Sometimes waiting for death was more torturous than dying. Lu Yin retreated and someone else took his place. They were also allocating the energy usage time. Unless the user of the black energy source appears, we're all dead, Mudo said as he looked at the progenitor realm Corpse King in the distance. Suiyu looked at Lu Yin. Actually, you can leave. Lu Yin's gaze shifted, meeting the gazes of Suiyu, Mudo and the rest. You're not from the hyperspace era and neither is Xi Jing. You have the stain of a deserter. If you escape, no one will say anything. Besides, you need Xi Jing's help, so the decision-making team might not hold you accountable for your desertion, Suiyu continued. Mudo fell silent. Comparatively speaking, Lu Yin was luckier than the rest. Even if he had become a deserter, he still had a chance to survive as long as Zijing displayed enough value. "Brother-in-law, take me with you," Luo Lauer begged. Lu Yin replied, "If I take you with me, you'll become a deserter. It's fine, just say that you kidnapped me and couldn't bear to see me die in battle. I definitely didn't want to leave and would rather die with everyone else, but I couldn't beat you and was kidnapped by you in the end," Luo Lauer excitedly told Lu Yin after finding an excuse. Time passed and more than half of the platforms were extinguished. Qiu Zhan panted heavily and looked at the progenitor corpse king, who was calmly standing in place. When Qiu Zhan looked over, it also looked up with a strange smirk on its face. There was a boom as the platform exploded and several platforms were extinguished. A corpse king walked out from the center of the explosion, its entire body burning with blade-like flames. It took a step forward and appeared on the next platform. In the blink of an eye, the platform was engulfed in flames and exploded under the blade's attack. This corpse king had a power level of over 1,000,000, and with Qiu Zhan and the rest holding back the corpse king, it was practically invincible. Platforms were destroyed one after another, and it soon approached Lu Yin's platform. Shi Hong stared in that direction. It was getting closer and closer. "Sister Hong, let's retreat, we're not their match," one of the men said. Another man added, "Sister Hong, we can't just throw our lives away. Sir has spent too much energy on us and the dojo." "I know," Shi Hong was irritated, but she clenched her fists as she saw another platform being destroyed. "Let's go." The two men were delighted. No one else could hear their conversation but Lu Yin could. They actually wanted to escape. Lu Yin raised his brows. This wouldn't do. If they escaped, how were they supposed to defend this platform? He looked up into space. Even if Zijing wanted to protect him, Lu Yin wouldn't be able to do so. Normally he would definitely die, and if he didn't die then there would be a problem, and if there was a problem, then it would be very likely that it would be discovered. Lu Yin didn't want to leave right after arriving at the hyperspace. "Let's go," Shi Hong growled and raised a hand to tear through the void and return to the hyperspace. Lu Yin's eyes flashed. The formless void had been isolated. Under the void god's domain, how could they break through the void? Shi Hong waved her hand but the void didn't react. She felt strange and tried again but it was still useless. "Sister Hong, let's go. It's coming." One of the men grew anxious. The flaming corpse king was already looking at them. Shi Hong's face flushed red and blue energy flickered. She waved her hand but the void didn't move at all. She was in disbelief. "Why is this happening? Sister Hong," the other man shouted. Shi Hong was furious. "We can't leave. The void has been frozen." The man was shocked and hurriedly moved but the result was the same. The void didn't move at all and they couldn't escape. "It's over." That was the only word that appeared in their minds. The flaming corpse king suddenly charged over and raised its hand, causing endless flames to descend. These flames far surpassed the blazing mist flow zone's flame battle techniques and the karmic flame sword. They were on a completely different level. In comparison, the karmic flame sword was just a small flame. In the face of these flames, Sui Yu and the others felt their scalps go numb. They couldn't even escape. Shi Hong and the others could only go all out, and they frantically released their blue energy to resist the flames. Unexpectedly, the flames actually managed to block them. Shi Hong and the others weren't the only ones who were surprised. The corpse king was just as surprised. The blue energy shouldn't have been able to block its flames. The corpse king suddenly appeared in front of Shi Hong and the others. It stretched out its palms and instantly absorbed the flames, transforming them into two suns that pressed down on Shi Hong and the others. These suns illuminated half of the platform, and the high temperature alone was enough to melt the metal. The moment it touched them, the entire platform would disappear. "Void God." Shi Hong gritted her teeth. She didn't know what the three of them did, but a whale skeleton, a meteorite, and a giant shield appeared on the platform and collided with the corpse king. The extreme heat collided with the three enormous objects, melting the shield and meteorite in the blink of an eye. The whale skeleton melted as well, and there was a loud cracking sound as it was enveloped by the blue light. The blue light forcefully pushed the corpse king away into outer space. Lu Yin was stunned. What was that? The power of the void god civilization? Luo Lauer cried out. The others were dumbfounded as those three objects had appeared too suddenly. Where had they come from? After pushing the Corpse King away, Shihong continuously retreated. Her entire body was covered in burn marks, but the two men were in an even worse state. They were barely alive and had collapsed onto the ground, unable to even stand up. Their all-out attacks had only managed to push the Corpse King away. The Corpse King's retreating body suddenly stopped. The power of the Void God. The flames ignited once more. And the Corpse King raised its hand, and a blazing light appeared in its palm, blinding everyone. Shihong felt bitter. It was useless. The power of a Void God could not harm him at all. The two men despaired. If they had known this would happen, they would not have come. Suddenly, the blazing light in the Corpse King's palm dimmed and disappeared. Its scarlet eyes glazed over and it slowly lowered its head. At some point in time, a deep scar had appeared on its chest. It looked like it had been struck by the whale skeleton and there was a crack there. Then it shattered into pieces. This sudden turn of events stunned everyone, and even Zhou Xian, who was fighting the Corpse King in outer space, was astonished. He looked deeply at Shihong. Was that the power of a Void God? The combined power of the Six Directions Society was actually this strong? No one had expected the Corpse King to die just like that. They stared at the empty space, unable to react. Luo Lauer was the first to react. Sister Hong, you're amazing. I love you. Shihong was stunned. Was she the one who had done this? Could the power of a Void God and a blue energy source be this strong? He was at a loss. The two men lay down. Sir is right. Civilizations complementing each other is the way out. Only then can we defeat the Eternals. Sir is truly far-sighted. Sister Hong, the Void God you chose is too powerful. It's a pity that it's gone. Shihong retracted her gaze. I'll choose another one when we get back. She frowned and looked at her hands. She was well aware of the power of a Void God, and it was far from enough to kill the Corpse King. Why had this happened? Not too far away, Lu Yin was watching Shihong and the others. He had naturally killed the Corpse King, and while it had been pushed away by those strange things, he had blamed them for its death. But what exactly were those things? Luo Lauer, what kind of power was that? Lu Yin asked. That power had surpassed their own power level. Chapter 2504. Luo Lauer was excited. Brother-in-law, that's the power of the faux god civilization. It's a very mystical civilization and everyone can control a faux god through cultivation. A faux god can control any living or non-living thing. As long as you can control it, it will be yours. Sister Hong's whale skeleton is a nihility god. The other two are also using nihility god techniques. Lu Yin was shocked. There was such a power? Control? Wasn't that the same as having possession on his die? That's amazing. No wonder the faux god civilization is called the Shield of the Hexagon Society. They don't even need to fight for their lives. They just need to control the faux god to charge forward. Even a faux god is so powerful. Why didn't Dad send me to the faux god civilization? Suiyu was shocked. That's the faux god civilization? Mudo answered, we've interacted with the faux god civilization before. Back then, someone from that civilization came here for an exchange. You should have seen it. Suiyu replied, every time I see it I'm shocked. But how does Sister Hong and the others know the faux god civilization's power? Luo Lauer exclaimed, that's right. How does Sister Hong know the faux god civilization's power? She's from a different dimension. He immediately ran towards Shihong and the others. However, this was a battlefield and shocking changes could happen at any time. Just as Luo Lauer ran towards Shihong's group, everyone turned to look at them as well. Behind them, a Corpse King appeared outside the metal wall and casually attacked a few people whose backs were facing it. Midway through the attack, a green light shot out and separated the Corpse King from these people. Lu Yin had made his move as he could not allow these people to be killed. This Corpse King only had the strength of an enlighter, so it was still within Lu Yin's ability to deal with it. Those people turned around in shock, and when they saw the scarlet eye, they were almost frightened to death. This is a battlefield, Lu Yin said in a low voice as he held the green energy in his hand. He raised his palm and used overlaying stacks to strike the Corpse King's forehead, sending it flying and shattering half of its head. Shihong was shocked. A cultivation civilization? She stared at Lu Yin. You're from a cultivation civilization? More Corpse Kings approached them. Let's deal with these monsters first. I think we should retreat. The platform is too conspicuous, someone suggested. but it was quickly rejected. Leaving the platform would also be seen as deserters. Let's all go together. I don't believe that anyone can convict us, someone said loudly, her eyes filled with fear. She had had enough. She had thought that the battlefield she was participating in wouldn't be dangerous, but who would have thought that danger would constantly appear? There were originally close to 1,000 people on this platform, but a third of them had already died. And this was with Shihong and the others taking action. If it weren't for them, this platform would have been gone. Lu Yin looked around and saw that most of these people were already on the verge of collapse. There was a limit to how much a person could endure, and these people were especially affected by the energy source's support, which meant that they were enduring an unbearable amount of pressure. There were both good and bad energy sources. The good thing was that these people who had not even reached the Enlighter realm possessed power that was close to that of an emissary, allowing them to traverse the heavens and surpass mortals. The bad thing was that these people had not experienced the step-by-step cultivation process of becoming an emissary, which made it difficult for them to withstand the pressure that came with such a breakthrough. It was like a child holding a divine weapon. He might be able to reach a certain height, but a child was still a child. In Lu Yin's eyes, these people were like children. When he saw the fear and despair in their eyes, Lu Yin's fervent desire for the energy source immediately dissipated. This thing could be used, and it was very useful, but it had to be used carefully. Do you think that there are many of us here? Do you think that we have influence in the decision-making team? Tell us. I'm telling you, as soon as we leave the platform, Commander Qiuzhan can kill us without anyone's permission, Mudo said. Luo Lauer was bitter. If I could leave, I would have done so long ago. Why would I wait for you? We're definitely going to lose this war. Let's leave first. Commander Qiuzhan and the others might not survive, someone else said with a trembling voice. His words caused many people's expressions to change. Some were tempted while others were furious. Suiyu glared at the person who had spoken. Shut up. You're shameless. You actually want us to lose this war? Is your life worth more than the victory of this war? Mudo and many others looked over coldly. Even Luo Lauer was disdainful. This guy is even more afraid of death than I am. The person who had spoken shouted, We didn't come to this battlefield in the first place, so what does it have to do with us? We shouldn't die. Do you want to die? Look around and see an endless number of corpse kings climbing up. Look at the platforms, half of them have already been extinguished. Who can stop them? Who can resist these monsters? I don't want to die, I want to go back. With that, a yellow light flickered as he tried to return to the parallel universe. At that moment, a figure appeared behind him. It was tall and emitted an unpleasant stench, and its shadow enveloped the person. The person stopped moving and gulped. He slowly turned around and saw a corpse king. Save. There was a soft thump as the person's body exploded into bits of flesh and blood that scattered in all directions. This was an emissary-level corpse king. It had appeared without any warning, and from Lu Yin's perspective, it seemed to have been attracted by that person's voice. Only those who did not fear death were worthy of living. Lu Yin had no intention of saving that person. Even if he did not die, he would be the first to betray humanity in the future. No one cared about that person's life or death anymore. Everyone was staring at the emissary-level corpse king that had suddenly appeared. Who could resist it? Shihong stood up with difficulty, the blue light spreading towards her hand. The corpse king's gaze swept across the platform and landed on Shihong. Its eyes widened and its body transformed, appearing directly in front of her. It pressed down with one hand. Shihong's current body was unable to use the power of the blue energy source. There was no one on the platform who could save her. She had never thought that she would actually die here. She was clearly a genius who had been entrusted with high hopes by the hyperspace organization. She was clearly very outstanding there, but at this moment, a blue light flashed in front of her. Blue. Who could save her? Those two should be in a worse state than she was. Near Lu Yin's heart, the energy source flickered with a blue light. He had finally used it. Shihong and the two men were enlighters, and if they could use it, then so could Lu Yin. It would not arouse any suspicion. The blue light represented a power level above the emissary level, and it could display a power level of 1 million. The corpse king in front of him had a power level of 600,000 at most. Lu Yin used his footwork battle technique and blocked in front of Shihong, clashing with the corpse king with one hand. Bang! His overlaying stacks continued to exert pressure, and the Corpse King began to break apart inch by inch starting from its palm. Finally, its entire arm was torn apart and it retreated a few steps. Lu Yin stepped forward and crossed paths with the Corpse King, a sword appearing in his hand at some point. The Corpse King's body collapsed, killed by the blue sword. Everyone on the platform watched in shock. Luo Lauer was not surprised, as there were many people from the Cultivation civilization who used blue energy sources. Shihong was not surprised either, as this person's battle techniques were very powerful and his sword techniques were very high. Lu Yin put down his sword and touched his heart. I can use it. Not bad. Brother-in-law, you really can use a blue energy source. Luo Lauer cheered. Everyone else heaved a sigh of relief as another blue energy source had appeared. This was great, as only a blue energy source could protect this platform. Lu Yin protected the platform, and in the following time, 2 more emissary-level Corpse Kings charged over, but they were all dealt with by him. Using the blue energy source to drive his battle technique, he was not able to kill as easily as Shihong and the others. His movements were shaky, but he was still able to protect the platform. However, protecting one platform was useless, as more than half of the platforms on the Art of Gift had been extinguished. When half of the platforms had been extinguished, the Progenitor Realm Corpse King moved. The energy source that covered a 10-meter radius around him dissipated, and the moment it did so, he attacked. The massacre that everyone expected did not happen, nor did the destruction of the Art of Gift. Qiu Zhan stood in front of the Progenitor Realm Corpse King, and the energy source in his heart was black. The black energy source was the highest level of energy sources, and its corresponding battle strength could be 2 to 5 million, which was equivalent to the power of an progenitor. Everyone thought that Qiu Zhan did not have a black energy source, but they did not expect him to have one. Qiu Zhan appeared in front of the Progenitor Realm Corpse King. Black light filled his long blade and he slashed out. The Progenitor Realm Corpse King raised his hand, and his body was pushed out by the power of the long blade. Along the way, the void was destroyed and the starry sky was split into 2. The ripples that were created continued to devour the starry sky, turning into a majestic pressure that swept across. The Art of Gift trembled and everyone was pressed down, finding it difficult to breathe. Lu Yin was the same. He looked at the starry sky and looked at Qiu Zhan. This was an attack that was purely based on strength. There was no Progenitor Realm power, no Progenitor Realm world. There was only the power of an Progenitor Realm that had been transformed into the most primitive energy. Where did this power come from? Although a clash of pure Progenitor Realm power was not as dazzling as a battle technique or innate gift, it still displayed the most primitive instincts of a creature. Hyperspace could convert all kinds of energy into the primitive energy that they needed and raise their strength to the Progenitor Realm. The Eternal Corpse Kings were even more adept at physical combat, especially these Progenitor Realm Corpse Kings. They rarely used their ancestral worlds and no one knew if they even had one. This resulted in a tit for tat. One was pure energy while the other was pure physical strength. They exploded in the dark starry sky, resulting in a battle that shocked countless people. This kind of battle was very crude for Lu Yin, who was used to battle techniques and other powers, but to others, it was impossible to tell whether it was good or bad. To the people of hyperspace, energy strength represented everything. Even someone like Luo Lauer, who also came from a cultivation civilization, might not have been able to see a battle between progenitors, so he had no understanding of the Progenitor Realm battlefield. Now all they could see were bursts of explosions in the starry sky and endless darkness being torn apart. They did not know if they were lucky or unlucky. The energy source had caused them to bear a weight that they should not have. The battle between progenitors was also displayed in front of them. Regardless of whether they could see it clearly or not, at least they could feel the pressure of a natural disaster. This kind of power was enough to overturn the starry sky. Perhaps some people were full of expectations for the future and yearned to achieve that power, but most people would be discouraged. Many people had some understanding of themselves and most people could not compare to geniuses and elites. Feeling the absolute power of humans too early would only cause them to be discouraged. Today is New Year's Day. In the new year, I wish my brothers good health and great wealth. Update at 2 p.m. Thank you for your support, brothers. Thank you. Chapter 2505. Can you see it? Shihong asked Lu Yin. Everyone on the platform was looking up at the sky, but they couldn't see the battle between Qiu Zhan and the Progenitor Realm Corpse King. They could only look in the direction of the shattered space. Only Lu Yin was different, as he was always looking in a certain direction. Shi Hong had observed that many times he had looked in that direction right before the space shattered, and only then did the others look in that direction. He was one step ahead of everyone else. Lu Yin replied, I can't see it. This is the peak of human strength. Shi Hong was puzzled. You saw it before all of us. Lu Yin looked at her. Instinct. Instinct? Shi Hong was puzzled. Zhou Xian and the rest looked over as well. Lu Yin explained, a cultivation civilization, although it's called a civilization, is actually just a process of competing for resources and finding ways to improve oneself. That process is filled with slaughter, danger, and schemes. If you're not careful, you'll die. I've experienced a war like this more than once, which is why I was able to detect it before you guys. Brother-in-law, you've experienced a war like this before? Luo Lauer was shocked. Perhaps because he felt that he couldn't explain it clearly, he pointed above him. A war where such monsters exist. Lu Yin looked up with a melancholy expression. I have. Actually, you're all lucky. If not for the protection of the bearer of the bestow technique, a single shockwave from such a battle between powerhouses would have been enough to make everyone disappear. Lu Yin was very clear about his origins and that he was from the Genesis space, so there was no need for him to hide some of his experiences. He completely treated himself as a low-level cultivator, and what he said was something that low-level cultivators would know. As for the words Genesis space, as an enlighter he definitely shouldn't have known about it. However, not everyone believed his words. Someone retorted, do you know what kind of power the two sides have? That's the peak of human strength, so how could it be so easy to see them? Mudwar replied, that's right. We've studied many parallel universes and most of them don't even have a creature with a power level of 1,000,000. Only a small number can give birth to a creature with a power level of more than 1,000,000, let alone a powerhouse like this. What's the name of your universe? Brother-in-law, which universe are you from? Are you famous? Luo Lauer was curious. Lu Yin shrugged. I don't know. A universe is a universe and it's my home. As for what you call it, I'm not sure. Didn't the decision-making team say anything? Shi Hong was puzzled. Lu Yin shook his head. Sister Hong, he's Zijing's man, Zhou Xian said softly. Shi Hong was surprised. Zijing's man? Is it him? After she finished speaking, she looked at Lu Yin with a completely different gaze. The starry sky kept exploding and cracks kept spreading. Fortunately, there was less than half of the platform on the bearer of the art of feeding that could support the operation of the energy source, helping them to resist some of the aftershocks. Everyone was originally looking at the starry sky, but as time passed all they saw was the scene of the starry sky exploding. Although it was spectacular, they couldn't see anything else, so they stopped looking. Only Lu Yin was watching. That Ancestor Realm Corpse King was really on par with Zhou Xian. One didn't use any combat skills and relied on physical attacks, while the other probably didn't know much about combat skills and relied on energy attacks. If they continued fighting like this, there wouldn't be a result even after a few months. However, he had underestimated Zhou Xian. From the beginning, Zhou Xian clearly had the black energy source, but he didn't use it. He only used it after the platform was extinguished, which meant that he had his own plan, and this plan was finally used. The huge black beam of light pierced through the starry sky, as if it had connected the dark starry sky with a passageway. This black beam of light was several times larger than any other beam of light they had ever seen. Everyone looked up and stared blankly. The black beam of light caused the starry sky to tremble, and the metal supporting it continuously fell off. It was difficult for the beam to withstand, and it brushed past Zhou Xian before ruthlessly striking the Ancestor Realm Corpse King. This time, the Ancestor Realm Corpse King was unable to catch the beam of light, and its body was sent flying into the distant starry sky. Zhou Xian immediately chased after it. The starry sky fell silent, and only the huge black beam of light gradually shrank. At this moment, everyone realized that they had suddenly lost their hearing and couldn't hear anything. They only recovered when the black beam of light completely disappeared. Was that destruction? Everyone looked solemn. Shi Hong looked up, her eyes filled with fanaticism and reverence. Destruction, the final stage of the bestowal technique. It can kill powerhouses with power levels in the millions. There really is one hidden here. Lu Yin looked into the distance. When the black beam of light had struck the Corpse King, the Corpse King's body had been continuously torn apart. The power contained within that beam of light was extremely powerful. Could the bestowal technique achieve this? Using cultivation techniques to make up for the difference in realms was something that the current microarray technology could not do. Although they both used source boxes, microarray technology was far inferior to the bestowal technique. It was hard to say what the future would hold, but at least for now, the power that the bestowal technique displayed was constantly refreshing Lu Yin's knowledge. That monster is finished. Mudo sighed. Zhou Xian said, it was hit by destruction head-on. It's dead for sure. Dead for sure? Lu Yin looked into the distance in a daze. Not necessarily, as progenitors did not only possess physical strength, but also all sorts of strange techniques and even external objects. However, since they were so certain, it meant that this power had killed a progenitor before. This was probably why hyperspace was one of the 6 directions societies. When destruction hit the corpse king head-on, everyone's expressions relaxed. Luo Lauer began to display his gossipy nature and continuously asked Shihong about the cultivation civilization of void gods. Zhou Yu and the rest listened attentively. However, Shihong did not say much. Instead, she was curious about Lu Yin's cultivation civilization, and she even suggested a spar. Lu Yin was helpless. The war isn't over yet. It's not a good time to spar. There were still corpse kings that had yet to be destroyed. Shihong did not mind. Commander Qiu Zhan deliberately hid the black energy source and even had everyone face those monsters head-on. He was waiting for destruction's attack. Now that destruction has been successfully unleashed, these monsters will soon be wiped out. Just wait. Just as Shihong had said, Lu Yin watched as a tattered layer on the surface of the feed technique broke off. Following that, a black beam of light swept out, not only targeting outer space but also the interior. Cultivators from the drifting cloud space walked up to the various platforms and began to operate the energy source. One platform after another was activated, and in the blink of an eye, more than half of the platforms had been activated. The energy source was constantly replenished, and the corpse kings that had climbed up the platform were instantly restricted and slaughtered. This war will end soon, Shihong said. Her life had been on the line and it had given her a new perspective. The battlefield was what changed people the most. She looked at Lu Yin. Try out your sword techniques. Just a few moves will do. Luo Lauer was excited. Brother-in-law, try it with Sister Hong. Her sword techniques are too cool. Try. Let's broaden our horizons. Which one is stronger between the cultivation civilization's sword techniques and our hyperspace sword techniques? Shihong raised a hand and silenced everyone. She then said seriously, my sword techniques do not belong to hyperspace. As for where they come from, you'll find out in the future. She then looked at Lu Yin and raised her sword. Please. Lu Yin really didn't want to compete with these kids. Your injuries haven't healed yet. It's not fair. Shihong replied, it's just sword techniques. There's no energy involved. If Lu Yin had known this would happen, he wouldn't have used his sword. He casually brandished his sword. Right, let's do it. Shihong raised her brows. Did this attitude mean that he didn't like her? The 2 men who had followed Shihong were leaning against the metal wall. Their injuries were so severe that they couldn't even stand up, but they were still displeased by Lu Yin's attitude. The people around them moved aside. Lu Yin and Shihong faced each other. Shihong gripped the hilt of her sword tightly. You're welcome. She then stepped forward and stabbed out. The hilt trembled, causing the blade to vibrate and emit a strange sound. Lu Yin was astonished. This attack was different from the previous one and he easily dodged it. Shihong's sword missed and brushed past Lu Yin's ear. She wasn't surprised, but she suddenly released her grip and pushed out with her palm. The sword twisted and spun around her body as if it had a mind of its own, enveloping Lu Yin at the same time. Everyone cheered when they saw this move. The sword spun and the light reflected off the blade, following the trajectory of the rotation to form a swimming dragon. One of Shihong's companions was breathing rapidly. Swimming dragon flash. I can't learn this no matter what. I'm amazed every time I see it. How many people in the entire dojo can learn it? It's a good thing that Sister Hong learned it a few days ago. This move is too beautiful. Maybe she can challenge that person. Suddenly, the 2 men's expressions froze, and the cheers of the crowd stopped abruptly as they stared blankly at Lu Yin. Lu Yin was holding Shihong's sword between his left index and middle fingers. He didn't even raise the sword in his right hand as he stared at her. Shi Hong stared blankly at him, unable to react. You like flying swords? Lu Yin asked. Shi Hong looked at Lu Yin in confusion. Swimming Dragon Flash was one of the top sword techniques in the dojo. It was a powerful technique from the main space, but it had been broken just like that. It's not a good idea to let go of the hilt, it's easy to get caught. Lu Yin loosened his grip and the sword fell to the ground with a thump. The sound startled Shi Hong and everyone else. Shi Hong stared at the sword on the ground. Would it be easy to get caught if I let go? That made sense, but this was Swimming Dragon Flash. How could it be so easy to get caught? She looked up at Lu Yin. You. Lu Yin smiled. I've already said that I've survived many battles like this. I rely on my eyes to survive. He pointed at his own eyes. I'm very good at finding openings. He picked up the sword from the ground and handed it to Shi Hong. Don't let go of the hilt so easily in the future. Shi Hong took the sword, feeling that something was wrong. However, this person was right. If she let go of the hilt, it would naturally be caught. She really wanted to say that it was Swimming Dragon Flash. This battle was a little strange. The crowd didn't understand, but Shi Hong did. However, the more she understood, the more confused she became. Even the two men felt like they had seen a fake Swimming Dragon Flash. How could someone catch the Swimming Dragon Flash? They had never heard of such a thing. Sister Hong, what's going on? One of the men asked, glancing at Lu Yin in confusion. Chapter 2506. Shi Hong looked up at Lu Yin, who was leaning against the wall. She did not know either. Perhaps it was just as this person had said, that he was very good at finding openings, which was why he had been able to survive so many battles. Sister Hong, the Swimming Dragon Flash shouldn't be like that. Don't give up, the other man couldn't help but say. He had always wanted to learn this technique, but he had never been able to. He had cut off his own fingers many times and admired this technique. How could it be so easily broken? Shi Hong took a deep breath. Of course I won't give up. I used it incorrectly and underestimated my opponent. I'll continue studying it when I return to the training hall. On the other side, Lu Yin pressed his sword against the ground with his fingers on the hilt and rotated it at will. The edge of the sword spun continuously, and the light reflected off the sword formed a line. That girl's swordsmanship was actually not bad. The real killing move was not in the rotating blade but in the light spots. Those reflected light spots combined to form a swimming dragon, and this swimming dragon was the killing move. The person who created this swordsmanship was very skilled in swordsmanship. This move was probably created casually. It was fancy, but it was also filled with killing intent. The person in the hyperspace system did not train in battle techniques, so he looked up and looked into the distance. This was getting more and more interesting. Brother-in-law, you're amazing, but aside from being pretty, I don't see anything good about that sword technique. Sister Hong seems to have suffered quite a blow, Luo Lauer said as he came over. Lu Yin asked, how does the Void God civilization compare to the Three Sovereigns' realms? Luo Lauer was speechless. Brother-in-law, can you not compare everything to the Three Sovereigns' realms? The Three Sovereigns' realms are at the bottom of the Hexagon Association. Lu Yin raised a brow. At the bottom? That's right, we're definitely at the bottom. Once we discover a powerful parallel universe, the Three Sovereigns' realms will immediately be eliminated. Otherwise, why do you think I, the son of Lord Luo, am a hostage in a parallel universe? Luo Lauer said, but his tone did not seem to care. The Hexagon Association is formed by the 6 most powerful parallel universes. Each parallel universe has its own system, and there is only one requirement to join the Hexagon Association. He lowered his voice. This is also what my father told me, which is to fight against the 7 heavenly gods. Lu Yin was curious. What's the 7 sky gods? Brother-in-law, you don't know about the 7 sky gods? I think I've heard of them, but I don't know. Well, I don't know either. All you need to know is that they are the 7 most powerful monsters of the Eternals. Did you see the destruction just now? Even if Commander Qiu Zhan used the black energy source, he wouldn't be able to block destruction's direct attack. But the 7 heavenly gods can. Any one of the 7 heavenly gods is terrifying. My father and the others had to work together to barely block one of the 7 heavenly gods, which was why they were able to squeeze into the 6 Direction Society. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been qualified to join. Lu Yin had never thought that dealing with one of the 7 sky gods would be the requirement to join the 6 Direction Society. This standard was quite high. Even though there were many Ancestor Realm experts in the Starry Sky Tree, who could guarantee that they could fight against one of the 7 sky gods in a one-on-one battle. The undying god had directly passed through the sovereign realm and arrived at the starry sky tree. Bai Wangyuan and the others couldn't stop him, but in terms of overall strength, if the progenitor realm experts worked together, the starry sky tree would definitely be able to deal with more than one of the 7 celestial heavens. The 6 Paths Guild's attitude towards the primordial space wasn't very friendly. The war was finally over. When Qiu Zhan returned, he didn't tell Lu Yin and the others about the results. After this battle, the carrier of the Art of Gift no longer moved. From afar, the carrier of the Art of Gift had shrunk by a third. Not long after, Shi Hong and the others left and returned to the hyperspace. A few more days passed, and on this day Lu Yin and the others received a notification that they could return to the hyperspace. This notification made everyone go wild with joy. Although they hadn't been in the drifting cloud space for long, the life and death battles they had experienced had left an unforgettable impression on them. Compared to when they had first arrived, everyone had changed. Whether it was those who feared death or those who wanted to desert, they all had a different temperament than when they had first arrived. This temperament could only be cultivated on the battlefield. However, Luo Lauer was still the same, and he kept calling Lu Yin brother-in-law, which gave Lu Yin a headache. The scene in front of them changed, and the group returned to the hyperspace and appeared in the giant space that they had come from. It was the same scene, but in less than 2 months, the number of people had decreased by a third. The remaining people looked around once more, and their state of mind was completely different. "We're finally back," a woman cried with joy. What she had experienced during this time had been a nightmare. "It's good that we're back alive. I'm never going back to that damned battlefield again. We almost died. Hurry up and contact father, he almost didn't get to see his son. It's you. When the Corpse King appeared, you pushed me out. I'll kill you," said one man, glaring fiercely at another. On the platform, everyone had different reactions when faced with life and death. Some people wanted to trade other people's lives for theirs, but on the platform, everyone had to endure. That was a battlefield, a world of barbaric slaughter. Here many things could be resolved here. "Don't spout nonsense, you're the one who's stupid. What does running have to do with me?" Another man said. He had a scar on his face from the aftermath of the battle. "Scram, I need to get treated. You almost killed me and you still want to run? I won't let you off," the man roared. The man with the scar sneered. "A mere child of a small noble dares to act so impudently in front of me? Ignore him, we'll leave first." A woman walked out and pulled the man with the scar away. Quite a few people scolded them, and Mudo walked out and stared at the two, especially the woman. "I remember you. You were the one who said that you wanted everyone to leave together. You wanted to be a deserter." The woman's face alternated between green and white, but she didn't dare refute Mudo. Her family's status was far from the Mu family's. The man with the scar stared at Mudo. "It has nothing to do with you. No one wanted to die in that situation. Don't think that you're a good person, Mudo. What you did wasn't honorable." "At least I didn't want to be a deserter," Mudo retorted. Luo Lauer stood beside Lu Yin with a look of disdain. "What's there to argue about? Being afraid of death is an instinct, and not being afraid of death is a result of ambition. Anyway, I'm afraid of death. When will you meet my sister, brother-in-law?" At this moment, screens appeared in the sky and everyone looked up. The screens showed the scenes of the battle on the platform, and everyone could clearly see what they had done. Lu Yin had long since noticed that the bearer of the bestow technique was watching all the platforms. This was the only way to ensure that it understood the state of the energy source and knew which platforms had been activated and which had been deactivated. The man with the scar was suddenly pulled up by a powerful force, and a loud voice resounded, framing a comrade in battle. "You are guilty." The man was terrified. "No, I didn't. He was stupid, it has nothing to do with me. I didn't do it." No matter what the man said, it was useless, and he was taken away in the blink of an eye. The woman beside him paled, and her body was similarly lifted into the air, bewitching and shaking the morale of the army. "You are guilty. Let me go, I didn't. Soon after, a third person was pulled up and then a fourth. Their performance on the battlefield had been recorded, and none of them could escape. In the end, more than 100 people were taken away. These people all had various problems, but some were serious while others were not. Luo Lauer sighed. "Why? Since you're on the battlefield, you must have some methods to monitor us. Am I right, brother-in-law?" He turned around, but there was no one there. Lu Yin had disappeared. Brother-in-law? Luo Lauer cried out, attracting the attention of Zhuyu and the rest, but no one could find Lu Yin. Lu Yin left through a teleportation device, as he had just received a message to meet with Xi Jing. After arriving in the hyperspace, he constantly changed his location. The drifting cloud space was the place where he had spent the most time, and he had gained a better understanding of the hyperspace. The next time he saw Xi Jing, they were floating in the air in a place that resembled a garden. Xi Jing was pleasantly surprised when she saw Lu Yin. "Are you all right?" Lu Yin replied, "I'm fine. What about you?" "I'm fine as well. Did you go to the battlefield?" Lu Yin was bitter. "I almost died. The battle was too intense and I was only an enlighter, but I encountered an emissary-level corpse king. If I hadn't been lucky, 3 of them just happened to appear and we wouldn't have met." Xi Jing felt strange as she had not expected the Pathmaster to be so good at acting. "Emissary? Even a progenitor could not kill him. It's good that you're fine. Don't worry, I won't let you go to such dangerous places in the future." "Where am I?" Lu Yin was curious and looked around. He turned around and saw a flight of stairs not too far away that led to a very high place covered by white clouds. Flowers bloomed beside the stairs and many strange creatures flew about, bringing with them laughter. This place was like a pure land that was filled with purity. Xi Jing whispered, "This is the most respected place in the hyperspace dimension. It cannot be desecrated." "Desecrated?" Lu Yin glanced at Xi Jing. Was she hinting that he was about to meet a truly important person? "Xi Jing, is this the person you chose?" A pleasant voice sounded from above, and the moment it appeared, it was like a clear spring that flowed into Lu Yin's heart. It was very comfortable. Lu Yin subconsciously looked up. Whose voice could be so pleasant to the ears? His gaze pierced through the clouds and he saw a pair of legs that were dazzlingly white. They were perfect to the extreme and they were barefoot as they stepped on the flowers. A white stream of air swirled around them, and he could faintly make out a woman in a long white dress. She had a pair of beautiful, flawless eyes that sparkled like stars. In that moment he actually forgot to look at the woman's face, as only those eyes filled his mind. Beautiful, flawless, and indescribably perfect. "How dare you?" Clouds covered the woman, blocking Lu Yin's view. Xi Jing was shocked and hurriedly knelt down. "Please forgive him, my lord. He doesn't know the rules here. Please forgive him." Lu Yin was confused. "What's wrong? Raising your head to look at me is a great honor. You dare to look at me like that? You've committed a grave sin." A pleasant voice rang out, accompanied by an indescribable pressure. It was as if a pair of eyes were looking over. Lu Yin's expression changed. A progenitor. There was definitely a progenitor watching this place. Looking up? Wasn't it just a glance? Was there a need for that? "Thank you, brothers, for your support. A new year has begun and the Wind Follower Association will continue to provide exciting stories. Thank you." Chapter 2507. Xi Jing opened her mouth wanting to say something, but she didn't know what to say. Lu Yin was the ruler of the 5th mainland and he was a Dao master. She could kneel and beg for mercy, but she couldn't do the same for Lu Yin. She couldn't reprimand him either. She had specifically reminded him not to blaspheme, but she had been afraid that something like this would happen. "Kneel," a pleasant voice reprimanded. Lu Yin's eyes narrowed. Xi Jing's face paled. "Sir, he doesn't know the rules and he's not from space-time. Please give him another chance. Please, sir." At this moment, another voice came from the side. It was cold and arrogant. What made Sister He so angry? Lu Yin turned around and looked at the newcomer in surprise. Bai Qian? The person who had suddenly appeared was Bai Qian, the first person to leave Earth. She was a legendary woman who was considered perfect on Earth. Ever since Lu Yin had stepped onto the path of cultivation, he had walked far too far, and even half-ancestors had to look up to him. However, he could never forget Bai Qian. She was like a mark that was deeply imprinted in his memory. Even if he had only seen her once or twice, this memory would never fade. With Bai Qian's arrival, a frigid air froze the ground and spread towards the stairs. Even the flowers were frozen and the creatures that were playing around screamed and fled. "Bai Qian, what are you doing here?" A pleasant voice sounded out and everything returned to normal. Bai Qian's expression was cold and although her gaze was gentle, it couldn't hide the chill that came from the bottom of her heart. She was like an iceberg that couldn't be melted and would only freeze everything around her. Your people did well in the battlefield of Drifting Cloud and I saw it. Zhou Xian is frantically requesting the council to increase the number of people sent to the Hexagon training grounds. Whether it's from the aristocratic families or the military, your strategy is correct. Of course. As someone from spacetime, I see things much more clearly than you. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Bai Qian looked up at the stairs. Have you ever thought about going to the Hexagon training grounds yourself? Bai Qian, recognize your position. Although you can't beat me, we're on the same level as each other. Don't do lowly things and stay with those filthy mortals. You're not only embarrassing yourself but you'll also blaspheme spacetime. Bai Qian looked away. The more you say that, the more I want to go. No sound came from the stairs. Bai Qian looked at Zijing, who was kneeling on the ground. She's Zijing? It has nothing to do with you. The melodious voice sounded again. Bai Qian looked at Lu Yin curiously. Why isn't he kneeling? Looks like sister, he likes him a lot. You can go now, the melodious voice said. The corners of Bai Qian's mouth curled up. Even though it was a smile, it still looked exceptionally cold. What's your name? She was asking Lu Yin. Lu Yin met her gaze but did not reply. Bai Qian asked again, what's your name? Lu Yin still didn't answer. Although he had used Death Mask to change his appearance, it hadn't changed much. With Bai Qian's intelligence, she would be able to guess his identity with a little analysis. Now that she had asked this question, coupled with her conversation with the person above, Lu Yin knew what to do. It's none of your business, Lu Yin replied. Suddenly, laughter rang out from the staircase. It was very pleasant to the ears and it melted Lu Yin's heart. He resisted the urge to look up as that woman's appearance had piqued his curiosity. He had been so focused on his eyes that he hadn't noticed. Now that he had a clear view of her appearance. Bai Qian, you can go now. I won't tell you, the voice said with a smile. Bai Qian looked deeply at Lu Yin. Do you know who I am? Lu Yin remained calm. Bai Qian turned to look at the staircase. This time her expression was completely cold and emotionless. Your people don't know the rules, she said before turning to leave. After she left, Zijing continued to plead, My lord, please forgive Xianxia on account of his ignorance. I beg of you, my lord. Xianxia, do you know who that person is? The voice asked. Lu Yin lowered his head. No, and I don't want to know. Why? I belong to you, my lord. You're very smart, much smarter than most people here. Many people are trying to win, but they don't know that no matter who wins, we'll have to deal with them in the end. I can guarantee that she'll definitely lose. He paused. But before that happens, she might take your life. She's a veteran of the battlefield and she's more ruthless than anyone. Zijing was shocked. My lord, please save Xianxia. Don't worry, Zijing. Xianxia is smart and I'm waiting for him to work for me. How about this, you can go to the Hexagon training hall. She won't be able to affect anything there. Lu Yin was confused. The Hexagon training hall? Uncle Imo, please take Xianxia there. Without your protection, he'll probably die once he leaves this place. Not far away, a man walked out of the void. Got it. Lu Yin looked at the man, the one who had been staring at him. He stared at the man's heart where the black energy source was. In the hyperspace continuum, this person was equivalent to a progenitor. A person protected by an ancestor realm expert? What was this woman's status? What was she competing with Bai Qian for? Uncle Imo placed a hand on Lu Yin's shoulder, and Lu Yin almost resisted. Let's go, he said, tearing through the void and vanishing with Lu Yin. Zijing heaved a sigh of relief. The blasphemy had been ignored because of Bai Qian's appearance. If not for her, she didn't know what would have happened today. This Xianxia is interesting. No wonder you like him, a voice said. Zijing respectfully replied, Thank you for letting him go, sir. I didn't let him go. He fought for it himself. If he had dared to curry favor with Bai Qian back then, he would be nothing but a shell now. Zijing felt a chill run down her spine. Fortunately, Bai Qian had appeared or things would have been troublesome. How could that be? The most likely possibility was that Xianxia had captured Xianxia and taken him to the fifth mainland. However, if that happened, the hyperspace continuum and the fifth mainland would definitely go to war. She rejoiced that she had sent Bai Qian to the hyperspace continuum. Elsewhere, Lu Yin had been brought to a desolate planet by Uncle Imo. There were many large spacecraft around the planet. This was his first time seeing a hyperspace spacecraft. The overall appearance was not much different from the fifth mainlands, but it was filled with the hyperspace continuum style. Every spacecraft had an energy source that formed a protective zone. Uncle Imo took a step forward and brought Lu Yin into one of the spacecraft. Within the spacecraft's command room, several people were arguing about something. When Uncle Imo appeared, they were startled and quickly bowed. "Greetings, Uncle Imo. Greetings, Uncle Imo. Greetings, Uncle Imo." Uncle Imo released Lu Yin. "His name is Xianxia. Take him directly to the hexagon training ground." He then disappeared. The others bowed again. "Yes, Uncle." They all looked up and curiously sized up Lu Yin. Lu Yin looked at them as well. "Little brother, come and have a seat." One of them was very enthusiastic. The others looked on. Lu Yin walked over naturally and sat down. "You have tea?" "Yes." The person beside him immediately had someone bring tea over. Lu Yin nodded. "You guys continue. Don't worry about me." They all looked at each other and guessed what each other was thinking. This person was definitely a big shot, and if Uncle Imo was personally escorting him, could he be one of that person's people? The more natural Lu Yin acted, the more they thought that he was a big shot. However, Lu Yin was not deliberately acting natural. He really did not care. He was the fifth mainland's Dao Lord and someone who could fight against a progenitor. If not for Bai Qian's appearance, he might have already captured that woman. He wanted to see what kind of person was so delicate that even looking at her was blasphemous. Sooner or later he would capture her. "What are you guys doing?" Lu Yin asked curiously as he listened to their discussion. A middle-aged woman smiled. "We're devising a challenge. Some people will be sent to the 6 directional training rites while others will be eliminated." "Is that so? Are there a lot of people going to the 6 directional training rites?" Lu Yin asked. The middle-aged woman replied, "Quite a few. News of Shi Hong's performance has spread throughout the universe, and many aristocratic families want to send their children over. Qiu Zhan also sent over 1,000 people to the 6 directional training rites, but there's a limit to the number of people who can go. Someone has to be eliminated." Since General Qiu Zhan is so enthusiastic, how many people are participating? No less than 100,000. That many? There's no other way. We're not stupid, and we can see that our civilizations are merging and complementing each other. This is the future and no one wants to be left behind. Lu Yin said, "Yes, that's why I'm being forced to go to the 6 directional training rites." They all looked at each other. Forced? How many people wanted to go but could not? This person was indeed a big shot. Not long after, the spacecraft landed on the planet and the advancement process began. These people were the judges who had been selected to enter the 6 directional training rites. They gathered together and watched the screens, watching everyone's performance. Lu Yin was watching as well. No one chased him away and he could go wherever he wanted. Through the screens he saw Zuiyu, Luo Lauer and Mudo. Most of the people who had been fighting on the platform in the drifting cloud space had arrived, including that muscular man. The elimination process naturally could not use energy sources, and these people were too weak, so the difficulty was not high. In the 5th mainland, these people would only be able to participate in the Astral Combat Academy's trials. The competition between more than 100,000 people was very interesting. These people fought against each other, but they also formed small circles that supported each other. They survived day and night on this desolate planet as they constantly approached the spacecraft. 2 days later, someone arrived outside the spacecraft. He was the first to complete the selection process, and he was a rather tall man. He was an explorer and stood out from the rest of the group. His strength as an explorer was purely based on his physical strength, as the people from the 6 directional training rites did not cultivate. There were not many explorers in this group, so they were naturally the first to arrive, followed by the second, third, and so on. Chapter 2508. After 12 days, the selection process ended. Out of more than 100,000 people, 1,700 passed and were allowed to enter the hexagon training grounds. Lu Yin leisurely sipped his tea until he was notified that someone was coming to pick them up. Only then did he leave. "What the? Brother-in-law?" Luo Lauer exclaimed. Zuiyu, Mudwa, and the rest stared blankly at Lu Yin as he walked out of the spacecraft. None of them had expected Lu Yin to be here. Lu Yin smiled and greeted them. "Why are you here, brother-in-law?" Luo Lauer asked. Lu Yin found it strange. "How can a hostage like you go to the hexagon training grounds? You've been here for a long time?" Zui was surprised. Many people looked over, but most of them did not recognize Luin. When they saw him walk out of the spacecraft, they were all unhappy. They had gone through so much to get here, but this guy had actually gotten in through the back door. However, despite their displeasure, no one dared to cause trouble for Luin. Being able to get in through the back door represented his background and status. They were not stupid, and no one dared to casually make enemies. There were some who wanted to befriend him, but Luin was not interested. Right now he wanted to know more about the Hexagon training grounds, and he could just ask Luo Lauer about it. Although Luo Lauer had only just obtained the right to go, he was quite good at gathering information. Furthermore, as a hostage he was actually able to enter the Hexagon training grounds. Brother-in-law, you don't know anything about the Hexagon training grounds? Luo Lauer and Luin stood in a corner waiting for someone to pick them up. Luin replied, I feel like it's a place where the Hexagon training grounds exchange information about their civilizations. That's right, Luo Lauer said softly. The Hexagon training grounds has always been difficult to deal with the Eternals, and they've always been on the defensive. However, after the 7 sky gods mysteriously left a few years ago, the Hexagon training grounds gained an absolute advantage and continuously regained their lost territory. They even had the opportunity to cooperate with each other, which opened the door to a fusion of civilizations. The Transcendents do not cultivate. Once their energy source runs out, they'll be finished. Thus, they want to cultivate not only to protect themselves, but also to adapt to a stronger energy source. Reality has proven that it's very effective, and their battle techniques can better utilize energy. The Void God civilization's power is also a weapon for self-preservation. Luin interrupted, How many years ago did you say? Luo Lauer replied, That's right. The Hexagon Association has always been on the defensive when dealing with the Eternals, and the Eternals have even occupied many parallel universes that the Hexagon Association can use. This has resulted in the Hexagon Association being unable to join forces even if they wanted to. However, several years ago the 7 sky gods left one by one, and the Hexagon Association took the opportunity to reclaim some of the parallel universes. The Hexagon Training Hall is located in one of these parallel universes. A few years ago, wasn't that the time when they had besieged the Undying God? It seemed that he had helped them in the end. Brother-in-law, you joined in advance because of my sister, right? Luo Lauer was curious. Before Luin could reply, old second Luo pitted him, Then you're in trouble. Luin raised a brow. What do you mean? Luo Lauer looked around sneakily and said in a low voice, Do you know how many people will come at the intersection of civilizations? How many geniuses will there be? There are too many. According to the information I gathered, it's not just the Hyperspace Society that's joining, but also the various universes. The number of people has increased by more than 10 times since Sister Hong's generation. It's said that there will be a second expansion, and it won't be just the Hexagon Association spacetime that will join, but many other universes that can communicate with the Hexagon Association will join as well. There are all sorts of civilizations, and the Hyperspace Society is still considered normal. Some of them even call themselves gods. Think about it, wouldn't it be great to find a goddess to be your wife? The main space, the wood realm, the void god space, and so on. Any one of them would make you rich. Unfortunately, you won't have that chance. Right, brother-in-law, which academy do you want to join? Luo Lauer asked. Luin didn't understand. What do you mean? Luo Lauer was speechless. My sister didn't tell you? I also didn't tell Zijing that I helped her take in a younger brother, Luin said. Luo Lauer wailed. Brother-in-law, you can't do this. I've already called you brother-in-law so many times. You have to get my sister to accept me. I don't plan on returning to the 3 sovereigns space for the rest of my life. I'm definitely going to follow my sister. Brother-in-law, you can't go back on your word. Luin felt a headache coming on. Tell me what that academy is first. Luo Lauer cleared his throat. The Hexagon Training Grounds have a total of 6 academies, each representing the Hexagon Association. Anyone who joins the Hexagon Training Grounds has to choose an academy to join, and after successfully learning the civilization's power from that academy, they can join the next academy. Don't think that joining the Hexagon Training Grounds will be easy. 1 year. If you can learn the power of a civilization other than your own within a year, you can stay in the training grounds and continue learning. If you can't learn it, you'll be eliminated. Luin was puzzled. Where did you hear all this from? Why are you so detailed? Luo Lauer replied, Everyone knows that the Hexagon training grounds aren't a secret anymore. Otherwise, why do you think so many people are begging to join? Lu Yin looked around and saw that more than 1,000 people were discussing amongst themselves, and he could vaguely make out the names of academies and training grounds. He had gone to Zijing's side after retreating from the battlefield and then been thrown here. He had no chance to learn about the outside world at all. Although the hyperspace civilization was close to a technological civilization and was connected to the internet, Lu Yin had yet to connect to this place's network, so he couldn't learn anything from it. Brother-in-law, which academy do you want to join? Luo Lauer asked curiously. Lu Yin's eyes twinkled. The Hexagon Association was made up of 6 civilizations, and the leading one was the main space, also known as the Reincarnation Universe. Below them were the Hyperspace Civilization, the 3 Sovereign Space, the Wood Realm, the Void God Space, and the Lost Clan. Wu Junshi had first told Lu Yin about the Hexagon Association, but with Wu Junshi's status he didn't know much. It was only after Zijing's explanation that Lu Yin gained a better understanding of the development of human civilization. The main space was a standard cultivation civilization, led by the Grand Celestial. Below him were the 3 sovereigns and 9 sages, all of whom had once been progenitors. As for whether there were still any progenitors left, or how many half-ancestors and envoys there were, Lu Yin didn't know. The 3 sovereigns' space consisted of Lord Luo, Lord Mu, and Lord Taixian. If they worked together they could resist the forgetful ruins god. As for their power system, Wu Junshi had said that it belonged to the monarch aura, which was more suitable for weapons. In the Wood Realm all life could be woodified. This was Zijing's introduction to the Wood Realm, which was also a cultivation civilization. The difference was that the cultivators of the Wood Realm could obtain the power of the trees through woodification. To put it bluntly, every cultivator of the Wood Realm had an innate gift of all sorts. How many cultivators in the 5th mainland had such innate gifts? Anyone with such innate gifts could join the 10 Arbiters' Council unconditionally. From this one could see how rare innate gifts were. The Wood Realm had all kinds of cultivators and it was extremely prosperous. Zijing did not know much about the Void God spacetime, which was why Lu Yin had been so confused when he had seen Shi Hong and the others use the Void God spacetime in the drifting cloud space. Zijing's description of the Void God spacetime was that it was similar to puppets, but Luo Lauer's introduction made Lu Yin feel that it was not puppets, but rather control. It was a very strange civilization. There was no need to talk about the Void God spacetime, he already knew a lot about it. The last one was the Lost Clan. Zijing did not know much about the Lost Clan either, but there was a phrase that she had memorized very well. It was also the 6 Direction Society's greatest understanding of the Lost Clan. Every Lost Clan warrior would plan a meticulous assassination that was most suitable for them. Lu Yin did not understand the meaning of this phrase, so he was especially curious about the Lost Clan. Which academy do you want to join? Lu Yin asked. Luo Lauer replied, the Void God Academy. Why? The Void God spacetime is best at protecting itself and it's always at the back of the battlefield. It's relatively safe. Lu Yin asked, the Void God realm? That's amazing. I'll join the Void God Academy as well. That's great. Brother-in-law, let's fight side by side in the 6 Direction training halls, snatch goddesses and fight against elites. We'll dominate the 6 Direction Society. Many people looked over with strange gazes. Lu Yin quickly distanced himself from him, regretting speaking to him. Half a day later, a person appeared and coldly scanned the crowd. With a wave of his hand, a white energy enveloped everyone and brought them away through space-time. Ever since he had come to the hyperspace, Lu Yin felt that the word distance had changed. In the 5th mainland, distance could be measured and it represented space. Now, however, distance not only represented space but also dimensions. It represented positions that humans could not measure, and this universe had expanded countless times. No matter how humans developed, they could not escape the universe. Even if they reached the progenitor realm, there were still parallel spacetimes waiting to be explored. No one could explore all of them in their lifetime. The astral wilderness, the parallel spacetimes, everything reminded them of how vast the universe was and how insignificant life forms were. In such a short time, Lu Yin had already gone from the 5th mainland to the hyperspace and the drifting cloud space. This was the 4th parallel spacetime. No matter how many parallel spacetimes they entered, the universe was the same. It was dark, deep, and filled with all sorts of rotating planets and constellations. However, when they arrived at this spacetime, Lu Yin was astonished. It was such a pure place. This spacetime is called Tai, and it means that it has not been modified by any power. It is the most primitive spacetime. The person who had brought them here looked at the sky. Many spacetimes have changed because of the appearance of extreme powerhouses, forming a unique civilization system, technology, cultivation techniques, or even various strange constellations. However, this spacetime is different. It does not have any unique power system and it is very clean. That is why it is suitable for the 6-direction training halls. With that, the person led the group and instantly appeared at the peak of the clouds. The clouds formed a ring that headed towards the sky, like a door that was connected to the darkness. Outside of the clouds and the sky they could not see anything else. This peak rises steeply from the ground but it stands at the edge of the sky. This is the 6-direction training halls ASXs. You entered from here and in the future you will dream of leaving from here. Unfortunately, there are too few people who can actually do that. The group did not understand. Enter from here and leave from here? The person did not explain too much. With a wave of his hand, 6 screens of light appeared in the void. The enormous screens covered almost all directions and attracted the group's attention. There were people fighting on each screen. Each screen represents a civilization. Choose the civilization that you wish to study, and that will represent the academy that you will enter. Let me remind you that if you cannot successfully enter the academy within a year, the civilization that you choose will be eliminated and will never be able to enter the 6-direction training halls again. This is your only chance. The group stared at the 6 screens. Choice opportunity. This was entering the academy. Chapter 2509. Lu Yin looked straight ahead, where a woman stood in space against an eternal corpse king. The corpse king attacked, shattering planets, and a casual wave of its hand caused the void to split open, extending far into the distance. Lu Yin looked up and saw a scarlet vertical eye that sent chills down his spine. The woman's face was obscured, but she spread her arms wide and released a green radiance that gradually covered the heavens. The green radiance then transformed into a towering tree filled with holiness. The tree's branches intertwined to form a giant palm that grabbed at the corpse king. The corpse king opened its mouth and roared as it charged forward. Its scarlet vertical eye constantly changed from gray, green and finally red. Its physical body was strengthened to the limit and even through the screen Lu Yin could feel its strength. However, even such a powerful corpse king was caught by the palm formed from the tree branches. The palm clenched tightly and the corpse king was crushed to pieces. The tree branches turned into green motes of light that drifted through space, creating a beautiful and dreamy scene. Lu Yin was stunned. It was crushed to death with a single palm? Are all the women from the wood realm this strong? Don't look for them, don't look for them. Luo Lauer also looked at the screen and saw the corpse king being crushed to death. He was terrified and hurriedly looked away. Look, brother-in-law, that's ultra space. Lu Yin looked over and saw that ultra space was displaying the feed technique. A black beam of light directly pierced through the corpse king, but the visual effect was not as shocking as the one from the wood realm. Lu Yin looked over and saw that a stone plate had appeared on the screen behind him. It was growing larger and larger, and the screen continued to expand until he could clearly see the entire stone plate. The stone plate enveloped the heavens, growing larger and larger until it surpassed the stars and everything that could be seen. It replaced the dome of the sky and viciously pressed down. The stars shattered like peas, and the void continued to distort, unable to withstand the might of the stone plate. Below the stone plate, there were countless corpse kings, and those scarlet vertical eyes all disappeared after the stone plate descended. A single stone plate had obliterated an entire battlefield. Lu Yin was shocked by this scene as he had never seen such a large stone plate before. It should be considered a weapon, but it had actually obliterated an entire battlefield. He just didn't know if there were any powerful corpse kings on that battlefield. At that moment, the image replayed and a giant scarlet vertical eye appeared in outer space. Lu Yin took a step forward. This was the Eternal's portal that allowed them to travel through space. With the appearance of the eye, corpse kings surged out one after another, gradually spreading out into the heavens. Suddenly, a figure appeared in the distance, and one could vaguely see that person standing on the stone plate. In the endless tide of corpse kings rushed out one after another. Their attacks shattered the void, ignoring space and distance. They were at least emissary-level corpse kings. In the distance, the stone plate beneath the man's feet struck out across the sky, shattering all the incoming corpse kings. At this moment, a gigantic corpse king walked out from the gigantic crimson vertical eye. Following its appearance, the entire starry sky trembled. It could destroy a planet in a single breath, and its strength was no less than the red-eyed corpse king that the woman from the wood realm had just faced. The corpse kingses and the corpse kings lose. The stone plate collided with the fist. The fist was shattered and then the head was crushed by the stone plate without any resistance. The giant corpse king's body fell down. In the next moment, one giant corpse king after another walked out. "For this battle I know," someone cried out. "It's Zhou Yi from the Void God universe. This is his final battle." "Zhou Yi? The one whose Void God is the astral martial stone plate?" someone else asked. Lu Yin's eyes trembled. "The astral martial stone plate? Yes, that's him. He delayed the Eternals on his own, but he was killed by millions of corpse kings who came out of the astral door. After he died, a strong cultivator appeared in the virtual God universe, but he only managed to take back the heavenly martial stone disc. What a pity. It's such a pity. I want to join the Void Dao Academy and find the strongest Void God that suits me. I want to join the Void Dao Academy as well." Lu Yin stared at the image, constantly looking at the stone plate. The astral martial stone plate? This couldn't be a coincidence, right? Wu Tian was one of the 6 Daoists of the 3 realms, someone who was on par with the Grim Reaper. Why would this name appear in the Void God universe? In the 5th mainland, Destiny was an elusive figure, but he was quite famous. The Star Sibyl sect had made divination public knowledge, leaving behind the Book of Destiny, Fates and so on. With the appearance of the Lady of Fate and the others from the realm of heaven, everyone knew about Destiny. Regardless of whether they believed in divination or not, Destiny was regarded as an absolute powerhouse from the realm of heaven. The Death God had long since been known by countless people, and the Spectre clan was the best inheritor. Lu Yin's Death God transformation during the final battle of the Sovereign Tournament had made the Death God a household name, and his fame was even greater than Fate's. Compared to them, Wu Tian, who was also from the 3 realms, was rarely mentioned. Wu Tian had created a way to use weapons and left behind a sword steel. This was the only record of him and the existence of the undying deity Wu Xing. Aside from that, there was no other record of him. Wu Tian had not left behind any battle techniques, nor had he left behind any shocking deeds. He was as low-key as the desolate ancestor of the 9 mountains and 8 seas. Lu Yin would never have dreamed that he would actually hear Wu Tian's name in this parallel universe. Did this stone plate have anything to do with Wu Tian? Brother-in-law, look at how the Lost Clan fights. It's really strange. No wonder it's said to be the most suitable for them, Luo Lauer came over and said. Lu Yin followed his gaze and saw a strange scene on a screen. It was a desert with a corpse king standing in the middle. Lu Yin looked around, but he couldn't find anyone. The scorching sun was high in the sky and even the air was burning. It was truly burning as it burned through the entire desert. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the ground, gathering sand to form a sword that slashed at the corpse king. The corpse king was extremely powerful, and its palm shattered the sand sword while simultaneously piercing through the figure. However, the figure turned into sand and fell to the ground. The sand stuck to the corpse king's body, and under the high temperature, the sand exploded one by one until the corpse king was finally killed. After the corpse king was killed, the desert space distorted and finally turned into a card that was caught by a hand. It was a man who casually put the card away and only his back could be seen on the screen. As for that card, Lu Yin couldn't see anything special about it. That's how the Lost Clan fights. They carve the most suitable battlefield into the card, and once they're trapped in the card, they can't escape unless there's a huge difference in power. Otherwise, they'll be tortured to death. In the war between the 6 Direction Association and the Eternal Clan, these cards are the traps that the Eternal Clan is most afraid of. There are always powerful Eternal Clan corpse kings that are dragged into the card trap, and in the end only the card and its owner can leave. The corpse king disappears forever, Luo Lauer explained in a low voice. The entire process on the screen was worse than the wood. The Upper Realm woman and the Void God space-time battle were shocked, but it also brought an indescribable chill. This was a meticulously arranged killing trap and it was a strange use of space. Lu Yin looked on in amazement. How could a card condense a space? Just like a cosmic ring? Could they arrange a space into the most suitable killing trap? The Lost Clan's fighting style was rather strange. Brother-in-law, just watch. Don't go to the Lost Dao Academy. They're definitely the most difficult civilization to learn, Luo Lauer reminded him. Brother-in-law, over there, that's the battle between the three monarchs. Lu Yin turned around and saw a light screen flickering with 3 colors. That was the monarch aura of the 3 monarchs space, which Wu Junshi had used before. The power of the 3 monarchs space was nothing special, but it was the best in the 6 Direction Association when it came to strengthening weapons. As long as it's strengthened by the monarch aura, any weapon can be upgraded by a level, Luo Lauer said. Lu Yin was surprised. If the slippers were strengthened by the monarch aura, would they be upgraded by a level as well? He wanted to ask, but he would probably be cursed by Luo Lauer. Using the monarch aura to strengthen the slippers was too insulting. Finally, Lu Yin looked at the light screen on the right. It was the only one that he hadn't seen before, and it represented the main space. There wasn't much to see in the main space. Just like the 5th mainland, it was a true cultivation civilization with all kinds of battle techniques. The battle techniques displayed on the screen were far less powerful than the ones that Lu Yin had grasped. However, the more this type of civilization was, the more no one knew the limits of their development. What he wanted to know the most was how the main space had been able to develop for so many years. The 3 sovereigns and 9 sages would never be lacking, and why the Grand Empyrean was the master of the 3 sovereigns and 9 sages. Even the 5th mainland's primogenitor couldn't possibly be the master of all the progenitors. The light screen slowly descended and turned into a staircase of light that extended in 6 directions. 6 directions, 6 academies which represent the 6 civilizations that you've seen. Choose the academy you want to go to and walk down the staircase. The end is there, the person who had led them here said. He then scanned the crowd and continued, enter the academy and walk down from the Sky Dome. It won't be easy to return to the Sky Dome again. I hope to see you here again. He then disappeared. Where are you going? The crowd asked. The main space, of course. That's the boss of the 6 Direction Association. I'm going to the main space as well. It's the most powerful cultivation civilization, and it's said that you can cultivate until you have a power level in the millions. What kind of concept is that? It's the strongest even without the black energy source. I'm going to the wood realm. Every woodified person can obtain an innate gift of the corresponding tree. Maybe I can obtain the strongest innate gift of wood. I'll go with you. There are too many innate gifts in the wood realm, and any one of them can transform our bodies. It's not that easy to obtain a good innate gift. You're all overthinking it. I'm going to the Void Dao Academy. The Star's Kite Disc is too ruthless, and those from the Void Dao Academy are the safest on the battlefield. Everyone was discussing this matter. So you found Lu Yin. Hey, where are you going? Lu Yin was curious why she was looking for him. The Void Dao Academy. I'm going to the Reincarnation Academy to find Sister Hong. You broke her sword technique, so I want to take revenge for her. Chapter 25:10. Mu Duo walked over. I feel like I'm suitable for the Lost Dao Academy. Luo Lauer rolled his eyes. Then congratulations, I won't be able to see you here in a year. Mu Duo snorted. I'll definitely learn it. Not long after, everyone finished their discussion. Zuiyu was the first to walk up the stairs to the Reincarnation Academy, followed by Mu Duo. They all climbed up the stairs and headed towards their respective academies. Luo Lauer followed Lu Yin towards the Void Dao Academy. Brother-in-law, the power of the Void Dao Academy shouldn't be too difficult. Look, so many people are going there. There were indeed many people going to the Void God Academy, but most of them were going to the Reincarnation Academy, while the Lost Dao Academy was the least. That battle style was obviously not easy to learn. Furthermore, the 6 screens introductions did not mention that the battles in the Lost Dao Academy were shocking and could even be considered ordinary. At most, the cards were a little mysterious, but they were not very attractive to most people. Luo Lauer bared his teeth as he watched Mu Duo climb up the stairs. If this kid is still here in a year, it means that he's learned it. Everyone be careful, don't fall for this kid's tricks. When everyone heard this, they looked at Mu Duo and the others with strange gazes. Mu Duo was furious. Just you wait, Luo Lauer. I'll beat you to death in a year. Luo Lauer rolled his eyes. We'll talk about it later. From a distance, this peak looked like the center of space-time. Tai spacetime was not very large and there were 6 flights of stairs that extended from the peak. At the end of each flight of stairs was a piece of land, not a star. Beyond the land was an unpredictable constellation that wreaked havoc in outer space. Lu Yin and the rest walked down the stairs, but they did not know how long it would take. At that moment a startled voice rang out, "There's someone below." Everyone looked down. The stairs were transparent and they could see a woman sitting next to the cliff face of the peak. She was looking up at them with bright eyes and they were actually right above her. Lu Yin looked down. This was what the person who had brought them here had said, to enter from the peak and then climb back out? Was this woman from the 6 direction training rites? The woman suddenly moved. A white rope was tied around her waist, and the other end of the rope was supported by some sort of battle technique. She violently swung it upwards and her target was Lu Yin's group. As she swung the rope upwards, it flickered with tricolored sovereign qi. Luo Lauer found it strange. Is she trying to get us to grab the rope and pull her up? That's impossible, Lu Yin replied. He knew that there were people monitoring this place and if the woman really wanted to leave through the hexagon training rites, she would not be able to take this shortcut. Just as he was thinking about this, the rope passed through the staircase. Below him, the woman stared at him with an unfocused gaze as if she was trying to do something. Lu Yin and the woman looked at each other and a formless energy enveloped them. This feeling was similar to rune lines and it was a type of energy that ordinary people could not see. The woman's eyes widened and she gritted her teeth. Control. Lu Yin's body trembled and he frowned. His fingers moved as he broke through some sort of restriction. Down below, the woman's eyes regained their focus and she looked at Lu Yin in disbelief. How could this be? I can't control him? Her original plan was to control someone above to grab the rope and pull her up. She would then use the stairs to reach the peak and complete the trial. However, what was going on? How could this person break free from her control? That shouldn't be, wasn't he a person from a spacetime continuum? She had already received news that this person would join the hexagon training rites today. Spacetime continuum people did not cultivate and only relied on energy to fight. This kind of person was the easiest to control and she had experimented with this many times. She had calculated the time, created a plan, found the location and arranged everything perfectly. But in the end she still couldn't control this person? How was this possible? Lu Yin and the rest slowly walked down the stairs, and the rope fell in front of their eyes before finally landing on the ground. The woman stared blankly at Lu Yin, her eyes filled with unwillingness. Brother-in-law, she's looking at you, Luo Lauer said. Lu Yin turned around. Let's go, no more nonsense. In the distance someone gloated. She failed? Ah, this girl is so crafty. I was wondering why she suddenly wanted to go through with the trial. Her strength is far from enough, so this is the reason. She's opportunistic. Even if she succeeds, she'll be stripped of her qualifications. Why? Success is success. This is intelligence. Do you think everyone is like you who doesn't rely on their brains? That's treacherous. Say that to that old bastard Ji Bing. Speaking of which, you've never won against that old bastard, right? I'll find a way to break his card. I'll be waiting, but this girl is even more interesting now. Let her be so arrogant and crafty. Although she's opportunistic, logically speaking, she should have succeeded. The reason for her failure is that she couldn't control this person. Yeah, he's so easy to control, just like a normal person. With that girl's ability, it's impossible that she couldn't control him. Strange. Investigate, there must be a reason. Don't let the Eternals sneak in. Nothing must happen to the Hexagon training hall. The stairs were very long since they spanned across the land. The group didn't walk very quickly, but when the stairs behind them suddenly broke apart, Luo Lauer shouted, "Brother-in-law, run." Lu Yin pursed his lips. What a child. He thought about it and rushed down the stairs with extreme speed, just like Luo Lauer and the rest. Half a day later, rays of light shot towards the group. They thought that it was some kind of test, but the rays stopped in front of them. They were jade stones. Lu Yin could tell at a glance that this was the work of the main space. Only a cultivation civilization would use such things. He picked up the jade stone and transmitted its information to his mind. The others did the same, and soon they had a rough idea of the Void God Dao Academy. There were no mentors or anything like that in the Void God Dao Academy. Although it was called a Dao Academy, it was actually just a place for them to cultivate. There was very little information, and it only told them what to do in order to learn the power of the Void from the Void God Academy. Brother-in-law, it seems simple, Luo Lauer said. Lu Yin replied, it seems simple, but it might not be so easy to cultivate. Sco. Another half a day passed and they finally saw the clouds above the continent. At that moment they saw countless strange scenes. There were all kinds of things floating in the sky above the continent. There were weapons, stones, and even something that looked like a village. How could a village float in the sky? Everyone was stunned. Although they didn't understand, they knew from the jade stones that these floating things were void gods that could be controlled by people who cultivated the void. There were all kinds of strange things in the sky, but most of them were normal. There weren't many weapons and they only saw one village. Who could control a village? Smash someone? The stairs suddenly disappeared and everyone fell down. Fortunately, this height didn't affect them much. Even if there was no energy source, their bodies wouldn't be affected. Everyone landed safely and rested for a bit before finding familiar faces and leaving in 2s and 3s. They already knew about the situation in the Void God Academy, and they all had places they wanted to go. Lu Yin only wanted to go to one place, which was the first step to cultivating the Void God civilization, to sense the power of a Void God. This was also where most of the people had gone. Luo Lauer was determined to follow Lu Yin, and he would go wherever Lu Yin went. The continent was huge, but for Lu Yin, who was an enlighter, it was very easy for him to go anywhere he wanted. Someone was secretly watching Lu Yin, and when they realized that he was an enlighter, they immediately became vigilant. There were very few people who could reach this level of cultivation at such a young age, and it was obvious that Lu Yin had used a battle technique. Luo Lauer came from the Three Sovereigns space and he also had a battle technique. These two were clearly from a cultivation civilization, but they had traveled through space to reach the Hexagon Training Hall. This wasn't normal. The first step to cultivating the Void God civilization was to sense the Void God. The Void God was a type of power that could not be seen with the naked eye, and to sense it one had to be within the Void God's power. Similar to cultivating rune lines, the first step was to open one's eyes. There was already a group of people from the Void God Academy before Lu Yin and Luo Lauer had joined. These people had all been eliminated, and those who had remained were either those who had grasped the Void God's power and wanted to strengthen themselves or those who had transferred from the other 5 academies. If one wanted to graduate from the Hexagon Training Hall, they had to grasp the power of at least 4 of the Hexagon Training Hall's civilizations. Thus, once someone learned the power of a civilization, they could apply to transfer to another academy. There was a place in the Void God Academy called the Void Lands, and there were stones of different sizes floating there. These stones were imbued with Void God's power, and they didn't have any offensive abilities. Their only use was to allow those who touched them to sense the Void God's power. One only needed to touch a stone. Lu Yin and Luo Lauer arrived at the Void Lands and saw many floating stones of different sizes. There were also other people here, and they were people like Shi Hong and the others who had joined the Hexagon Training Hall a long time ago. When they saw Lu Yin and Luo Lauer arrive, someone said, "You're finally here. Did the fusion of our civilizations succeed?" A man sat on a stone 1 meter wide and stared at Lu Yin and Luo Lauer. "Which spacetime do you belong to?" Lu Yin replied, "Hyperspace." "How many people are here?" 1,700. 1,700? That many? Interesting. Seems that those fellows brought quite a shock when they returned to their own spacetime. If hyperspace is like this, then the other spacetimes should be the same. At least they have foresight. Although we've spent a lot of time in the Hexagon Training Hall, the power we've gained is incomparable to that of our own spacetime. Not only have I grasped the innate gift of wood transformation, but I've also learned the Void God's power. When I return, I'll be able to suppress all the geniuses of my generation. Not necessarily. Those geniuses aren't stupid and they'll all be here soon. Besides, the first batch of people who arrived had already entered the training hall. We can't compare to them. They'll catch up. It's just a matter of time. We just need to find the civilization that's most suitable for our cultivation. Lu Yin looked around and found a stone to climb up. These people were all sitting cross-legged on the stone, looking very relaxed. Chapter 25:11. These stones were imbued with Void God's power, and anyone who touched them would be enveloped by it like a drowning person. A normal person would be lucky if they could last half a minute on their first contact, but they had to endure it for more than 6 hours. At that point, they would be able to open their eyes and see Void God's power with their naked eye. Only then could they step through the threshold of cultivating Void God's power, or they would never be able to do so. "Back off," a woman in green robes shouted from not too far away. Her long hair draped over the stone, and each strand glowed with a hazy light. She stared at Lu Yin with a sharp gaze. "Me?" Lu Yin was confused. The woman replied indifferently, "That stone has an owner." Lu Yin nodded and walked over to another stone of similar size. "Back off, it has an owner too." Luo Lauer found a stone that wasn't very big, but it was big enough for him to sit on. "Back off, it has an owner." Luo Lauer found an even smaller one, but he was still reprimanded. "Back off, it has an owner." Luo Lauer was annoyed. "This one has an owner and that one has an owner. How can there be so many people? Don't tell me all these stones have owners." Someone sneered, "The outermost one doesn't have an owner. Go there yourself." Luo Lauer frowned. "There are at least 80 stones here, if not 100. I remember that the first batch of people who came to the Six Paths only had a few hundred people, and each academy only had a few dozen people. Most of them even went to Reincarnation Academy. How can all these stones have owners?" "If I say they have owners, then they have owners," someone else said in an unpleasant tone. This attitude had nothing to do with any grudges, but rather a sense of superiority that had developed after staying here for so long. They wanted to show it to Lu Yin and the others, which was what they called bullying the newcomers. Luo Lauer looked at Lu Yin. Lu Yin looked at the woman who had spoken first and the stone she was sitting on. He pointed at it. "I want that one." The woman was stunned and everyone else looked at Lu Yin before laughing. "Xiaofei, you've been provoked by the newcomer, huh? Xiaofei, he thinks you're easy to bully. Teach him a lesson." Luo Lauer looked at Lu Yin with admiration. "You're too tough, brother-in-law." The girl named Xiaofei's expression darkened and she walked down from the rock. "Newcomer, you've got guts. You're from hyperspace, Xiaowu. You don't mind if I teach him a lesson, do you?" At the back a man faintly said, "Up to you. It's good to learn a lesson." He also came from hyperspace. There were a few people here, but they were all led by this person. Xiaofei nodded. "It's good." She then looked at him. "I won't make things difficult for you. As long as you kneel down and admit your mistakes, this matter will be over." Luo Lauer walked behind Lu Yin and whispered, "Brother-in-law, Xiaowu is actually here. He's no small fry, so be careful." Lu Yin looked at Xiaofei. "Kneel down and I'll let this pass." Everyone's eyes widened as they sneered. "Xiaofei, if I were you, I wouldn't let it go so easily. Take care of him, little Fei." In fact, even if these people didn't cause trouble for him, he still planned to cause trouble for them. He wanted to experience the power of the Void God spacetime, and it would be best if one of them could learn the power of the Lost Clan. "Which noble family are you from?" In the distance, Xiaowu suddenly spoke up and looked at Lu Yin. Lu Yin was indifferent. "He talked too much." Xiaowu frowned. "Xiaofei, cripple him. I'll be back soon and I'll take him away so that he won't taint your eyes." Xiaofei smiled. "Thank you, Xiaowu. Xiaowu is still the brightest. Xiaowu, tell his family that he was crippled here. See if anyone will come to help him. We're looking forward to it." "Haha." Xiaofei moved away from the rocks and giggled at Lu Yin. "You can make your move now." Lu Yin was curious. "Why aren't you guys wearing glasses that can detect power levels?" Xiaofei was surprised. "Why should we? If we don't, how can you be sure that the person in front of you is weaker than you?" Lu Yin asked. Xiaofei's smile faded. "This isn't an academy or an ivory tower. This is the Hexagon training grounds, a place that doesn't forbid life and death." Her eyes then lost focus as a faintly discernible power was released into the sky. Most people wouldn't be able to sense it. However, the difference between Lu Yin and them was so great that he could feel it even if he couldn't see it. It was just like when he had descended from the peak, when that woman had tried to control his body, but he had easily shaken her off. "Sis, brother-in-law," Luo Lauer exclaimed as he pointed above him. Lu Yin looked up and saw a huge shadow looming over him. It was a ship, a huge ship. He had seen this ship before when he had descended from the peak and passed through the clouds. There had been all sorts of things floating above the Void Dao Academy, and there had been more than one ship. The huge ship smashed down at him. Beads of sweat dripped down Xiaofei's forehead as she tried to control the ship with her Void God's power. Since they were in the Void Dao Academy, she had to use the power of the Void God civilization to fight, which would easily attract the attention of others. The ship smashed down very quickly, and in the blink of an eye, it was right above Lu Yin's head. There was a loud boom and the ground shook. It was clearly just a ship, but it was incomparably sturdy. The force of the crash was also great, comparable to a peak hunter's attack. When the ship smashed into the ground, Xiaofei sighed in relief. Her body swayed a little. She had succeeded. Someone in the distance cheered, "Not bad, Xiaofei. You can already pull this ship. Of all the items in the Void Dao Academy, this ship is definitely in the top 20. Xiaofei, when did you surpass me? No, I'm going to get serious. That brat should be dead. Xiaowu, do you still want his corpse?" The person called Xiaowu looked at Xiaofei. "In a real battle, no one will just stand there and let you smash them. That person is too stupid and doesn't deserve to be your opponent." Xiaofei was exhausted. "I thought that he would attack, but he didn't even dare to retaliate. Trash." She then looked at Luo Lauer, who was standing in the distance, and her expression changed. Luo Lauer's expression was normal, but he was looking at her with a mocking gaze. No, that gaze was wrong. "Is this the fighting style of the Void God civilization? It's similar to Shi Hong's, but it's a bit weaker." Lu Yin slowly walked out from behind the ship and sized it up as he spoke. Xia Wu and the rest were shocked. "He wasn't dead?" Xiaofei stared at Lu Yin. "You have some strength." Lu Yin circled around the ship and looked at Xiaofei. "You guys like to praise yourselves. Since that's the case, I'll use a bit more strength." His body then vanished. This was the speed of an enlighter. Xia Wu and the rest's expressions changed. "Not good, this speed." Lu Yin suddenly appeared behind Xiaofei and reached out to grab her. Xiaofei suddenly turned around, surprising Lu Yin. She could actually see the speed of an enlighter. Xiaofei turned around and unleashed a flurry of palm images. Dozens of palms merged into one in an instant, forming a single palm. This was a battle technique. Bang! Xiaofei's palm collided with Lu Yin's, but it felt like she had hit a rock as her palm shattered. How could this be? Lu Yin's palm pressed down on her head without any resistance, and all of her movements stopped. From a distance, she looked like a well-behaved girl who was being taught. "You're from a cultivation civilization?" Xiaofei looked at Lu Yin in shock, her eyes flickering. Lu Yin's palm was very hot, but it made her feel cold. "You're not from a space-time continuum. Are you from a cultivation civilization?" Lu Yin did not answer. Instead, he grabbed Xiaofei's collar and tossed her towards Xiaowu. Xiaofei's body shot forward like a meteor, sweeping past stone after stone and people before finally crashing into Xiaowu. Xiaowu's expression changed and he hurriedly dodged, but he was not fast enough. Half of his body had just left his original position when his right shoulder was struck, and he was sent flying along with Xiaofei. Everyone else stared at Lu Yin with different expressions. Some of the people further away had not provoked Lu Yin, but when they saw this scene, their expressions changed as well. This was a ruthless person. Xiaowu coughed a few times, and beside him Xiaofei had already been knocked unconscious. He stood up and held his right shoulder as he glared at Lu Yin. "Who are you? You're definitely not from a space-time continuum." Lu Yin smiled. "Take a guess." Xiaowu was furious and he gritted his teeth. "Do you know who I am?" "Not interested," Lu Yin said, and then he looked at the others. "Who else wants to provoke me?" Those who had previously provoked him fell silent. Xiaofei's cultivation of the faux god civilization's power might not be the strongest, but she had come from an autonomous space and was quite powerful. Even so, she had been easily defeated by Lu Yin, so how could the others dare to challenge him? Lu Yin felt that it was a pity that no one from the Lost Clan had made a move. He was truly curious about the power of the Lost Clan's card. The stones were of different sizes, but the one that Xiaofei occupied was the largest. Lu Yin touched it and felt a wave of energy envelop him. Just as the Jade had described, cultivating the faux god civilization's power for the first time was like drowning for an ordinary person who did not know how to swim. It was already quite good to be able to last a few minutes. He sat on the stone and wanted to see how long he could last. Xiaowu left, too embarrassed to stay any longer. He had said that he would punish Lu Yin, but the other party had ignored him. He did not dare to make a move either, as it was obvious that he was no match for Lu Yin. The others also fell silent. Some looked at Lu Yin curiously while others continued to cultivate. Luo Lauer also found a stone and sat on it. Similarly, no one dared to provoke him anymore. The void suddenly quieted down. Cough cough. Luo Lauer jumped off the stone and coughed violently. Not too far away someone laughed. Not bad. You managed to last 3 minutes on your first attempt. Luo Lauer coughed and stuttered. You even timed me? That person replied, it's not just me. Many people do this for the first time to see how good their aptitude is. Luo Lauer's eyes lit up. Did you just say that my aptitude is good? Just slightly worse than mine, that person replied. Not too far away a girl spoke up as well. Slightly worse than me too. Slightly worse than me. Luo Lauer shouted, stop. You're messing with me. The girl smiled. 4.5 minutes for me. The man who had spoken first said, 3.5 minutes for me. Less than 4 minutes for me. Luo Lauer rolled his eyes. So I'm the worst. Not really. Many people are worse than you and some didn't even last 2 minutes. It's obvious that they don't have the aptitude to cultivate the faux god's power. Chapter 25:12. You can change academies? Luo Lauer was shocked. The Jade didn't say anything about this. It only said that one had to join the academy within a year, or they would be eliminated. The man nearby teased, of course you can change academies, but you have to have an invincible father. The woman continued, the guy who changed academies before had an ancestor who was one of the 9 sages from the main space, but he couldn't even last a minute on his first try. He said something about being restrained, so he went to the Wood Dao Academy without even looking back. No one dared to say anything. If your ancestor is that strong, he can change academies as well. Luo Lauer felt his teeth ache. His father was definitely stronger than that so-called 9 sages, but it was useless. His father didn't care about him. Forget it, let's continue. Wait, where's brother-in-law? He looked at Lu Yin. Many people were now looking at Lu Yin. While they were talking, he had already lasted for 5 minutes. 5 minutes was pretty good in the Void Dao Academy and only a few people could last that long. Your brother-in-law is really strong. Brother, which civilization are you from? Someone asked. Luo Lauer replied, Transcendence. Stop bragging. Even the strongest Transcendence cultivator at this age can't kill Xiaofei unless he's at He Shu's level. If he's at He Shu's level, how could Xia Wu not recognize him? Where are you from? He's really from Transcendence. Forget it if you don't want to talk about it. Another 5 minutes quickly passed and everyone in the void looked at Lu Yin. It's already been 10 minutes. Xiao Qingfeng from the main space was the one who lasted the longest in the Void Dao Academy. He lasted for 20 minutes, which led to a senior from the Void Dao Academy descending and confirming that he could go to the best place in the Void Dao Academy to find a natal void spirit. This guy can't be close to Xiao Qingfeng, right? Impossible. Xiao Qingfeng is a descendant of one of the main space's 3 sovereigns. His cultivation talent is unprecedented. How can anyone compare to him? It's already pretty good that he lasted for 15 minutes. 15 minutes is already very impressive. He Shu, Luo Zong, Mu Mu, and the other geniuses who entered the Void Dao Academy all lasted around 15 minutes. It shouldn't take more than 15 minutes. 15 minutes passed and the clock ticked closer to the 20th minute. Lu Yin sat on a rock and was enveloped by an invisible force. This force seemed to want to drown him and he found it difficult to breathe. He instinctively wanted to leave, but since he had trained in rune lines before, he understood this invisible force and was used to it. The virtual god civilization's power was similar to rune lines in nature. They belonged to a certain powerhouse who had the power to change the world, but the way they were used was different. Based on his current understanding of the virtual god civilization's power, it was far less miraculous than the rune line civilization. Of course, what he saw was only the surface. To be able to become one of the 6 direction associations with such strength, the minimum requirement was to be comparable to one of the 7 sky gods. How could such strength be weak? He just didn't know what this space-time had to do with Wu Tian. Thinking of this, the time passed by 20 minutes. Everyone fell silent as they stared at Lu Yin in a daze. 20 minutes had passed and Xiao Qingfeng had already left the stone. However, this person still hadn't left? Someone asked Luo Lauer, you guys aren't from the Void God civilization, are you? Are you here to toy with us? Luo Lauer rolled his eyes. Well, they really are from hyperspace. Several people arrived and one of them stared at Luo Lauer. I didn't expect you to be here, second brother. This person had a rather handsome face, but he was still young. He was called Luo Shan and was one of Lord Luo's 15th sons. Luo Lauer's face turned ugly when he saw the newcomer. We've met a dog. What did you say? Someone shouted angrily. Luo Xian raised a hand to stop him. Second brother, you're very angry. There's no need for brothers to meet. Luo Lauer didn't even look at him, his eyes filled with disgust. Luo Xian looked at Lu Yin with a strange expression. Surpassed big brother Qingfeng? Second brother, you've really found a good backer. Little brother Luo Xian, are they really from hyperspace? A girl asked loudly. She was rather curious. Luo Xian smiled. Yes, this second brother of mine stays in hyperspace all year round. Someone from hyperspace can actually surpass Xiao Qingfeng? How rare. The universe is vast and full of strange things. Hyperspace really made a killing this time. I wonder what that person's status is in hyperspace. He offended Xiaowu. Even if he has some innate gift, it won't be easy. That's not necessarily true. He might be able to join the Void God universe. It's too difficult. 20 minutes might seem amazing, but that's only relative to civilizations outside the Void God universe. Those who live in the Void God universe usually take more than 15 minutes for their first attempt. 20 minutes isn't a small number either. But it won't be too long, or Xiao Qingfeng won't be able to attract the attention of the Void God civilization's seniors. 25 minutes passed as the discussion continued. No one present knew what this meant, and no one from the Void God universe was present. This was the Void Dao Academy, and those from the Void God universe couldn't join it. Although they were shocked, they were only shocked that Lu Yin had surpassed Xiao Qingfeng. The ones who were truly shocked were the people from the Hexagon training rites who were secretly watching Lu Yin. Previously, when Lu Yin had descended from the peak, a girl had tried to use her Void God power to control him and cheat his way through the trial. Everything had been perfectly prepared and she should have succeeded. However, she had failed because Lu Yin had shaken off her control. A person from hyperspace had been able to shake off that girl's control, which had attracted the attention of the Hexagon training rites. The person who had been watching Lu Yin saw that he had lasted for more than half an hour and hurriedly reported it. This was no small matter. The Hexagon training rites were established by the Hexagon Association, and their goal was to unite civilizations and fight against the Eternals. Thus, the Hexagon training rites had seniors from all 6 civilizations. When an elder heard that someone had lasted for more than half an hour on his first attempt, he almost jumped up. Are you sure? Half an hour? The person who was watching Lu Yin reported, the time is still increasing and he shows no signs of leaving. The elder immediately vanished. The other elders from the Hexagon training rites looked at each other and saw the shock and envy in each other's eyes. 40 minutes passed and everyone gathered around Lu Yin to see how long he could last. At that moment, the elder appeared and waved his hand, causing a surge of power to sweep everyone away. Get lost and don't disturb him. The old man stood not too far away from Lu Yin and sized him up with a strange look in his eyes. It had been 40 minutes. Someone from outside the Void God spacetime had actually lasted more than 40 minutes on his first attempt at Void God spacetime. Even in the Void God civilization, those who could last for 40 minutes on their first attempt were rare geniuses, let alone outsiders. 50 minutes had passed. The elder's eyes grew brighter and brighter and he raised his hand. A cloud connection stone appeared in his palm. The cultivation civilizations within the Hexagon training rites also used cloud connection stones to communicate with each other. Lu Yin had already found out about this when he had talked to Zi Jing. The primordial space they were in definitely had a deep connection with the Hexagon training rites, but for some reason the connection had been severed. Investigate someone called Xianxia from the hyperspace continuum. I want all the information on him, the elder said softly, looking at Lu Yin as if he was looking at an unpolished gem. It was no wonder why he could shake off Su Yu's control. This person was clearly a genius from the Void God civilization, an absolute genius. 50 minutes had passed, and if you could last another 10 minutes or 2 hours, your future would be completely different. Lu Yin sensed the elder's presence outside. He had actually wanted to leave, but the elder had suddenly appeared and thrown everyone away, which made him think of something. It was obvious that he had lasted for too long. Since that was the case, he might as well take a longer time. He wasn't like Luo Lauer and the others who wanted to slowly learn. He was the 5th mainland's Dao Lord and could fight progenitors. It was a waste of time to slowly learn from these people. With that in mind, Lu Yin continued to persist. 2 hours passed. The elder's breathing quickened. 2 hours, it had really been 2 hours. Even Suji had only lasted for 2 hours, and he was already considered a rare genius in the history of the Void God civilization. This person was not from the Void God civilization, but being able to last for 2 hours was enough to shock the entire Void God spacetime. However, this was not the end. The elder couldn't help but stare at Lu Yin. How much longer could he last? Lu Yin could feel the elder's breathing quickening. It should be enough. Through the jade, Lu Yin had learned that a normal person could only last for a few minutes during their first attempt at Void God Force. Lu Yin had lasted for more than 2 hours, which had even drawn out an old man. This was enough to shock a group of people, and if he persisted any longer it would be counterproductive. He slowly opened his eyes and saw an old face. Lu Yin was startled and subconsciously retreated 100 meters, staring at the elder warily. The elder's lips curled up and he tried to put on a friendly smile. "Hello, kid." Lu Yin blinked. "Who are you?" The elder smiled. "I'm Zhou Xian, the person in charge of the Void God Civilization's garrison at the Hexagon training grounds." Lu Yin relaxed. "So it's a senior from the Void God Civilization." Junior Xianxia greets senior. Good. You're welcome. Come sit, let's chat." The air in front of Zhou Xian distorted to form a table and chairs. Lu Yin was amazed. Zhou Xian smiled sinisterly and said, "This is formed from faux god power. Not only can faux god power allow you to use faux gods, but it can also form unique techniques. Even though our faux god civilization is the last to fight, we're actually quite good at close combat." Lu Yin sighed. "Ever since I saw the Void God civilization's battles, I've been looking forward to it. That's why I chose the Void Dao Academy without hesitation when I arrived at the Hexagon training grounds. I believe that I made the right choice." "Ha, of course you're right. Too right." Zhou Xian was delighted. Lu Yin recalled the way the ghost monkey, Ku Wei and the others spoke, and a look of admiration appeared on his face. Junior hopes to be like senior one day, being able to control Void God Force with ease. "I long to come into contact with the Void God civilization and meet the Void God spacetime ruler that I've never dared to meet even in my dreams." Zhou Xian's eyes lit up. "You yearn for the Void God civilization?" Lu Yin's expression changed. "Yes, even in my dreams." Chapter 25:13. "All right," Zhou Xian shouted and slapped his thigh. "Kid, as long as you're willing, I can guarantee that you'll join the Void God civilization." Lu Yin was surprised. "Junior can join the Void God civilization?" "Absolutely. Come, kid, tell me about your understanding of the Void God civilization." Zhou Xian beckoned. Lu Yin naturally sat across from Zhou Xian and began making all sorts of exaggerated guesses. He described the Void God civilization as the strongest force in human history. As he spoke, he thought of progenitor Chen, Kuzu and the Grim Reaper. His reverence for them was replaced by that of the Void God civilization. This sincere reverence made Zhou Xian feel even more pleased with Lu Yin, to the point that he wanted to take him as his godson. 4 hours later. "Xianxia, it's a pity that you don't join the Void God civilization. I guarantee that I'll bring you to the Void God spacetime so you can cultivate here." Zhou Xian clenched his fists in excitement and turned to leave. He had to think of a way to get Lu Yin over. He had seen Lu Yin's information, but he hadn't expected this kid to be related to the traders of the hyperspace continuum. This was going to be troublesome. Lu Yin called out respectfully, "Junior will wait here." Zhou Xian waved and disappeared. Lu Yin sighed when he saw Zhou Xian disappear. He didn't know how Ku Wei and the others had done it, but he was exhausted. It seemed that his performance had been quite impressive. Not long after, Zhou Xian's people returned, and they all looked at Lu Yin with strange gazes. Luo Lauer praised Lu Yin to the skies, but in the end Lu Yin patted him on the shoulder. "You've worked hard." Luo Lauer didn't understand. What had he worked hard for? With such an impressive performance that even attracted Zhou Xian's attention, no one dared to cause trouble for Lu Yin anymore. Elsewhere, Zhou Xian entered the hyperspace continuum from the Tai spacetime and found Ku Jian. On the surface, Lu Yin was a member of the Energy Research Team's guards, and he was directly under Ku Jian's jurisdiction. When Zhou Xian explained his intentions, Ku Jian was stunned. "Xianxia is suitable for the Void God civilization?" Zhou Xian seriously replied, "Yes, he's very suitable. I want to bring him to the Void God spacetime to cultivate." Ku Jian rejected without thinking. What a joke! Xianxia was a bargaining chip to threaten Zijing, and Zijing was related to a very important research in hyperspace. If he took him away, what if Zijing betrayed him or slacked off on the research? This was a loss that Transdimensional didn't want to bear, and it was even more impossible for that lord to bear. Su Xiangyin said, Xianxi's first time using Void God's power took more than 2 hours. You know what that means. I have to take him away. Kujian's expression turned ugly as he hurriedly contacted someone to inquire about Xianxia. The result was the same as what Su Xiangyin had said. This matter had already been recorded in the 6 Direction Training Hall's records, so it could not be faked. To be able to persist for more than 2 hours, was this fellow's talent really that high? Kujian, you know the rules of the 6 Paths dojo very well. Xianxia isn't a big shot in ultra space-time. If it was that little guy called Hishu, I wouldn't want him, but Xianxia is different. His background is clean, Su Xiangyin said. Kujian frowned. A clean background? No, his background was the least clean. He came from that space. However, only a few people knew about this. The 6 Paths dojo had agreed that anyone who entered that space would have to inform everyone. In order to bring Zijing back, they did not tell the other 5 civilizations that they were going to enter that space again. They could not tell anyone now. What are you still thinking about? Do you want me to report this to Su Xiangyin and ask him to come out personally? He's worth it, Su Xiangyin said. Kujian said, I want to report this to Sir. Up to you, Su Xiangyin replied. Kujian told Su Xiangyin everything that had happened. Su Xiangyin's pleasant voice was surprised. Xianxia is actually so talented in the Void God civilization? You want Su Xiangyin to come and ask for him? Kujian said, the rules of the 6 Paths dojo cannot be disobeyed. Otherwise, if Su Xiangyin asks, it might expose that Xianxia came from that space. If that's the case, then let him be. Yes. Tell Zijing to come see me. Not long after, Zijing arrived and knelt on the ground. Greetings, sir. Zijing, that Xianxia of yours is quite capable, the pleasant voice said, but it was impossible to tell if it was happy or angry. Zijing's expression changed. Had the Dao Master been exposed? Her first thought was that he had torn down the 6 Paths dojo. With his strength, tearing it down would not be a problem. If he went all out, it would be enough to shake the entire 6 Paths society. Are you worried? Zijing forced herself to remain calm. How did Xianxia offend, sir? He didn't offend me. He only offended the Void God civilization. Zijing was confused. The Void God civilization? He displayed a cultivation talent that made the Void God civilization go crazy. Now, the Void God civilization wants him like crazy and wants to take him to the Void God spacetime. What do you think I should do? Zijing was stunned. He was not surprised at all. Throughout the Dao Master's cultivation career, he had always been a genius. No, a genius. No, an absolute genius. The Dao Master was the greatest genius in the history of the 5th mainland, so it was normal for his talent to be exaggerated. You're not surprised? Su Xiangyin's voice sounded strange. Zijing respectfully replied, I didn't react in time. You sound more relaxed. Zijing was shocked. I wouldn't dare. You must think that I can't do anything to your man after finding out that he's been valued by someone from another parallel universe. The pleasant voice sounded amused and not angry at all. Zijing lowered her head. Even if he wasn't taken away by the Void God spacetime, you can't do anything to him. Of course, she didn't dare say that out loud. Let alone the Nihility God universe, even if he's taken away by someone from the main space, I can still make him beg for death. On the stairs, the voice suddenly became fierce, with a high and mighty air of arrogance, causing the stairs to break. You will never understand how high I stand, it's just a mere Xianxia. Zijing hurriedly said, Sir, Xianxia will never betray you. I will never betray you either. Is that so? I don't care about Xianxia. He has the ability to escape my control, so that's his ability. However, if you think that you can slack off and escape like last time, then you're wrong. I promise that if you betray me again, I won't let Xianxia die, but I will make him beg for death. Sir, I wouldn't dare. Zijing once again expressed her loyalty. The woman on the stairs changed her sitting position and propped her chin up with her jade-like hand. All right, you may leave. Zijing respectfully acknowledged and slowly retreated. After Zijing left, Kujian arrived. What should we do with Xianxia? If the Void God civilization wants him, then give him to them. But don't let them think that we're going against the rules. Yes. Kujian nodded. Pass a message to Xianxia. The woman retracted her hand, her eyes bright and unfathomable. Hyperspace will always be his home. Kujian's eyes flashed. Yes. Tai Spacetime, the Void Dao Academy. Those who had joined the Void Dao Academy at the same time as Lu Yin's group had also arrived. When they heard about Lu Yin, they were all stunned. He had just arrived and he had already created a miracle. They weren't used to it, and the original members of the Void Dao Academy were even more uncomfortable. Xiaofei had already woken up, but after hearing about Lu Yin's miracles, she didn't come to the Void Lands. Xiaowu didn't come either. The Void Lands were the entry level, and once one entered the Void Dao Academy, their power wouldn't need to be in the Void Lands. As long as they were within the Void Dao Academy, they could try to guide the Void Gods floating in the air or search for Void God power hidden within the Academy. This was both a test and a reward from the Academy. However, most of the time, those who had entered the Void Lands would stay there, as this was the only place where they could constantly sense Void God power and improve their control over it. Unfortunately, Zhou Xian's warning caused those who had already entered the Void Dao Academy to leave. Only a new batch of people could stay behind. Do not disturb Xianxi's cultivation. Violators will be expelled from the Void Dao Academy. These were the exact words that Zhou Xian had sent, causing those who had entered the Void Dao Academy to lose their temper. For Lu Yin, Zhou Xian had basically given up on them. He was being too biased. Xiaowu was furious. He didn't care whether or not he went to the Void Lands, but this kind of bias was too much. Some people reported this to the higher-ups, but it was useless. Zhou Xian had the final say in the Void Dao Academy. Forget it, don't provoke him in the Void Dao Academy. He's the Void God civilization's treasure now, but that might not be the case once he leaves, Xiaowu said. Xiaowu, what do you mean? Speak clearly. Someone was puzzled. Xiaowu sneered. This person has been praised too highly and has attracted Zhou Xian's attention. Who in the Void Dao Academy would dare to offend him? How do you think he's feeling right now? Not far away, Xiaofei's eyes were cold. He's obviously very arrogant. He probably doesn't care about us anymore. That's for sure. If that's the case, then let him be a little more arrogant. Xiaowu's lips curled up. In the Void Lands, Lu Yin left the stone and looked up at the sky. He saw the strange Void Gods. It had already been 6 days since he'd arrived, and he could already last 4 hours on the stone. This speed was considered fast. Under normal circumstances, for someone like Luo Lauer who could achieve entry-level virtual god power but was not exceptionally talented, it would take him at least half a year to achieve entry-level virtual god power for 4 hours and then half a year to achieve entry-level virtual god power. Once one entered the Void Dao Academy, they would be able to stay in the 6 Direction Training Grounds. The 1-year limit set by the 6 Direction Training Grounds was also based on this type of cultivator. However, Lu Yin could enter the Void Dao Academy in a month at most, which made Luo Lauer feel rather unbalanced. The people from the Void Dao Academy who had come with him were similarly unbalanced. They would occasionally look at Lu Yin with envious gazes, but no one dared to say anything. Some people wanted to get closer to Lu Yin, but he only responded with a few casual words. Everyone could tell that he wasn't paying attention, and gradually no one tried to get close to him. However, their gazes were more or less filled with dissatisfaction, but no one dared to show it. Chapter 25:14. Brother-in-law. These people are all from aristocratic families. Forming a good relationship with them will be beneficial for your future development, Luo Lauer advised. Lu Yin replied, then help me form a good relationship with them. Luo Lauer was speechless. If I had even half of your talent, I would have gotten along with them long ago. That kid is from the Void Academy. Why is he here? Lu Yin looked over and saw a man walking over with a smile. He was from the same batch as Xiaowu and the others, and they were part of the first batch of people from the Hexway training grounds. Brother Xianxia, are you done with your training today? I hope I didn't disturb you. Lu Yin asked, which civilization are you from? The man hadn't expected Lu Yin to suddenly ask this. I'm from the main space. Lu Yin nodded and didn't ask any further. He really wanted to know more about the main space, but what could he learn from someone like this? It was pointless. When the man saw that Lu Yin was ignoring him, he hurried over. Brother Xianxia, you've created a legend that shook the entire Hexway training grounds. Your talent is unparalleled even in the Void God civilization, let alone other civilizations. Before you, Xiao Qingfeng was the most talented person in our Void Dao college. However, Xiao Qingfeng didn't last as long as you did. You even attracted the elders of the Void God civilization. Perhaps you've already caught the attention of the Void Master. Gradually, Lu Yin felt strange and Luo Lauer felt even stranger. They watched the man's endless flattery and didn't know what he was trying to do. I estimate that Brother Xianxia isn't just talented in the Void God civilization, but also in other civilizations. Woodification, lost tribes, monarch's aura, and even the near immortals or immortals that our reincarnation space has reserved for you. You can fight for them all. The man continued to speak for almost an hour without repeating a single sentence. Lu Yin looked at him with admiration. What's your name? The man didn't answer and his gaze was fixed on Lu Yin's face. However, his gaze was a little unfocused as if he wasn't looking at Lu Yin at all. He was already immersed in his own world as he recited. Luo Lauer blinked. There was actually someone like this? Who knew how long he'd been reciting all this while? What a talent. Lu Yin patted the man, waking him up. What's wrong, Brother Xianxia? Lu Yin laughed. Are you saying that I have the same talent for cultivation in other civilizations? The man was excited. Of course, with your talent, Brother Xianxia, you're definitely not limited to the Void God civilization. Then which academy do you think I should go to for further my studies? The man's eyes lit up. Anything is fine. Aside from hyperspace, Brother Xianxia, you can try anything. Lu Yin and old Luo exchanged glances. All right, I got it. After the man left, another woman arrived. She was very beautiful and her smile was very charming. Just like the man, she immediately started to bootlick. Which civilization are you from? Lu Yin was curious. The woman pursed her lips and smiled. I'm from the Three Monarchs space. Do you know me? Luo Lauer leaned over. The woman looked at him with disdain. My sister knows you. Who's your sister? That. Unlucky. The woman gritted her teeth and ignored Luo Lauer. She stared at Lu Yin and started a new round of flattery. After the woman left, Xiao Fei actually came over and gave a very sincere apology. Then Xiaowu came over. These people had only one goal in mind, and that was to praise Lu Yin's innate gift. After they left, old Luo Lauer was confused. What are they doing? Lu Yin was amused. Their goal was simple. To inflate his confidence and make him arrogant so that he could leave the Void Dao Academy and go to another academy. That way their people would be able to act against him. What a childish trick. These people were much younger than Lu Yin, and they were about the same age as he had been in the Astral Combat Academy. Back then he had fought against the Day-Night clan and his methods had not been that brilliant. Lu Yin shook his head, not interested in wasting time on them, and continued to cultivate. In the distance, Xia Wu and the rest were gathered together. Do you think he fell for it? Think so. We were praising him to death. I've never praised anyone like that in my entire life. That's called flattery. Shut up, aren't you? Why do I feel like he hasn't moved at all? Xia Wu felt the same way. We'll continue tomorrow. I don't believe it. We'll bring the Grand Dao Academy along. I want to see if it can attract him. Yeah, he's already here. How could he not want to go to the Grand Dao Academy? I don't care about anything else, but that old Luo must be taught a lesson. He's too despicable. While they were discussing, a voice suddenly sounded out. What Grand Dao Academy are you talking about? Everyone was shocked and looked in the same direction. A woman was standing there looking at them curiously. She was beautiful and wore a tight purple dress. Her hair was tied up in a ponytail and she looked very capable. Her eyes were lively and mischievous. See you? Everyone gasped. She was the one who had wanted to use Void God's power to control Lu Yin to pass the trial. You guys seem to be discussing something shady just now. Suyu raised her hand and stroked her chin. Everyone felt awkward. Xiaofei walked up and giggled. Sister Suyu, why are you here? Aren't you supposed to be at the Grand Dao Academy? Suyu lowered her hand and placed her hands behind her back. She walked around the group, sizing them up. Everyone looked at each other, not knowing what to say. Xiaowu asked, Suyu, why are you here? Suyu looked at Xiaowu and asked, Little Wu, are you thinking of some sneaky tricks again? Xiaowu's expression turned ugly. Don't spout nonsense, Suyu. He looks like an upright person, but he has a dog-headed advisor like you who gives him rotten ideas. My brother said that he'll find trouble with you sooner or later, Suyu threatened. Xiaowu's expression turned even uglier and he coughed a few times. Don't spout nonsense without evidence. Suyu rolled her eyes. I'm leaving. Everyone watched her leave. He seems to have gone to the Void Lands. Why is Suyu here? Doesn't she need to learn from the Void God civilization? Someone was puzzled. Xiaowu's eyes flashed. Follow her. Not long after, Suyu arrived outside the Void Lands and saw Lu Yin. Her eyes widened. It was him. She found him. Good kid, he really is at the Void Dao Academy. Xiaofei chased after her. Sister Suyu, you can't enter this place as you please. Suyu raised her brows. This is the Void Lands, why can't we enter as we please? What, you dare to claim this place as your own? Xiaofei was speechless. What was she talking about? Suyu is warning Senior Yin. Anyone who has joined the Void God civilization is temporarily forbidden from entering the Void Lands. Tiu was confused. Why? It's not like this is a good place. Xiaofei pointed at Lu Yin and explained everything that had happened. In the distance, Xiaowu stared at the scene. He had not seen wrong. Suyu had seen Xianxia and was about to head over. She had probably heard about Xianxi's deeds and wanted to take a look. This was interesting. The Void God civilization's greatest genius was Suyu's brother, Suji. It might not be a good thing for Suyu to come here as she might cause trouble for Xianxi. In any case, whether or not that was the case, it was always a good thing for Xiaofei to sow discord. However, Xiaowu was wrong. Suyu did not know about Lu Yin's deeds. She had just returned from the peak of the trial. What? He lasted more than 2 hours during his first attempt at the Void God's power? Suyu was shocked. Xiaofei found it strange. You don't know. Suyu looked at Lu Yin, her gaze completely changing. Her brother, Suji, was known as one of the most talented people in the history of the Void God civilization, and he had also lasted more than 2 hours. How could this outsider compare to her brother? Impossible. This matter has spread throughout the 6 paths. How could you not know about it? This Xianqi's standards are really high and he doesn't even acknowledge us when we talk to him, Xiaofei said softly. Suyu stared at Lu Yin. No wonder he had been able to shake off her control of the Void God's power. He had clearly never cultivated the Void God's power before, and she had been curious as to how he had managed to do so. He was a genius comparable to her brother, Suji, and a genius at cultivating the Void God's power. Senior Su Xiangyin came here? Tiu asked. Xiaofei replied. He did and warned us not to disturb Xianqi's cultivation. Speak. Tiu was confused. What did he say? Xiaofei replied. He said that Xianqi is the Void God civilization's most talented cultivator. Suyu frowned. Most talented? That seemed to be the case on the surface, but having talent did not mean that one could cultivate it. She did not believe that this person could surpass her brother. Suyu wanted to look for Lu Yin, but she suddenly stopped and thought for a moment before turning to leave. Sister Suyu, aren't you going in? Xiaofei was puzzled. Suyu did not say anything and quickly disappeared. Xiaowu was displeased. What's going on? Why did she leave? Xiaofei replied, I don't know either. I just did as you said. Xiaowu frowned. He had wanted Suji to cause trouble for Xianqi, but that was Suji, the absolute successor of the Void God civilization. If he caused trouble for Xianqi, then Xianqi would be in trouble. He thought back to what Suyu had said. Suji wouldn't really cause trouble for him, right? No, he could not deal with Suji. At the same time, Suyu and the others had successfully joined the Reincarnation Dao Academy and found Shihong. Shihong was an elite disciple of Hua Duo, and she had a good relationship with the various factions in the Reincarnation Dao Academy. She easily brought Suyu around to familiarize herself with the academy. Little you joining the Reincarnation Dao Academy makes you half a sect member. All your senior brothers and sisters will help you. Thank you in advance. Under the waterfall, birds flew across the sky, filling the courtyard with fragrance. Shihong led Suyu and some other people who had come from beyond spacetime to join the Reincarnation Dao Academy and the original cultivators of the Reincarnation Dao Academy. Suyu was very smart and knew that this gathering was very important to her future. She quickly bowed. Junior sister Suyu greets her seniors. With Shihong leading the way, Suyu and the others did not have to go through the same process as Lu Yin and the others. They easily got to know everyone and the atmosphere was very relaxed.